going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Once again, joined by my good friend Mark Darden to my left. What's up, man? How you doing?
No, not much. Yeah, for a moment there, I wanted to be like,
Feel free to
sorry,
do what you want, man. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
No, it's an old Saturday Night Live bit where, like, I think the news reporter is trying to do the news, and her news anchor is next to her, just being like,
So today, guys, continuing on with last week's video,
yeah,
where we looked at all things the Max, we're going to be looking at the Max trading card set. As I mentioned before, Mark just knows a crap load about all this stuff related to the Max series, related to the trading cards that we're going to be looking at today. And it's really a good opportunity for me to just kind of sit on my ass, sit back, and let Mark take the lead. And this is something I don't know a lot about. I never had access to the Max trading cards. The comic, yes, but for some reason it wasn't in the comic shops. I do remember that card though. Isn't that from a Wizard magazine?
uh, so I think this
Am I wrong?
one, yeah, I think it was in the Wizard 1/2. I think is where that shot came from, but maybe it was in the
Gotcha.
Wizard magazine.
Okay. Because I do have I do remember having somewhere in my collection the Max cards from the Wizard magazine. But I digress. Today, like I said, Mark's taking the lead, and I'm just going to be enjoying looking at the Max trading card set for the first time, asking questions and commenting on the content that we're taking a look at.
Yeah, you'll recall that scene from the book.
Yeah,
But they did it
absolutely.
as two cards with a slight bit of space so they don't actually connect, which is annoying. Why would you make it so that there's just barely a piece of it missing so that if you put them next to each other, they don't line up? It's like, why? Anyway, yeah, the cards, for any Max fans who don't have them, the cards were put out. It put out in November of 1993. And we'll get into the backs of them were written by William Mesner Loebs. And what the big advertisement of the cards is that there was going to be a 90 card set. 48 of the pieces are taken from the comic books, including Max 1, 2, and 3, the 1/2, and Darker Image 2 that never came out. So
Okay.
so that art felt new to fans, but it was really from Darker Image 2. And then 42 original pieces, which you can very much tell because a lot of the original pieces are not the same level of quality. Like, some of them are, like, they're still nice, but they're not that same hyper detailed level. You can very much tell.
Oh, they feel a little more dashed out.
Yeah, much
Okay.
more like, got to get this done. Which some of them, I mean, they're honestly are still nice pieces. Like, it's not like it's bad. It's just they're, well, okay. The very next card was a perfect example of, like,
Oh, you know what? You know what? I have a theory on this now that you show me a couple of those.
mhm.
Maybe a lot of these were done at a much smaller size as well. I know back in the day,
Yeah,
like when Jim Lee was doing the X-Men card set, he was drawing at a much smaller scale. So yeah, you're
uh,
not throwing in obviously as much kind of small finicky detail in there. You know, Sam Keith is known for a lot of his fine hatching, especially
mhm.
around that period. So he seemed to be doing a lot of less of that.
Yeah, like, and some of the art looks like if it was a small panel in a comic, it would, it'd be fine. Like, it'd be another panel telling the story.
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
you're going to do it for the card, a card itself, and at that size, it needs to look really good at that size. Like, each of the new pieces feels like it ought to look like the best of stuff from the comic book, not the panels that, like, oh, fill in and tell a story detail.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
But
definitely, like I said, I think the theory behind that is that a lot of it was probably drawn at a much smaller size. Like you said,
yeah, it's a
possibly
good point.
sometimes even, yeah, almost the size of the card.
So so the backdrop history of it. So Sam Keith does 42 original pieces. There's 48 cards that are taken from the comic book. So 16, what was it? Oh yeah, 16 pieces are taken from issue number 1, 16 are taken from issue number 2, 8 pieces were taken from issue number 3, 4 were taken from the Wizard 1/2 issue, and 4 were taken from the unpublished Darker Image 2. Then all those pieces were all recolored by Ruben Rude. Steve Oliff did the original coloring, and from issue 1, I think, actually, yeah, Steve Oliff and Ruben Rude worked on Ruben Rude. Yeah, worked on issue 1, but Ruben Rude went back and did recolors. I'm saying,
Okay.
yeah. It is the last name's throwing me off. Like, am I saying that right or am I? And then
Is his last name actually Rude, like Ravishing Rick Rude, right? Is that,
Rude.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Rude.
An
So yeah,
interesting last name.
he does recolors. They're very similar to what's in the comic book, but it's just like it's done slightly differently, probably to sharpen it up and make it pop on the card art.
Probably a little more saturated, a little brighter.
Yeah, it's just a little different. And then kind of the big fun crux of it is that it was advertised to fans that you would get all these story details that you won't have read yet that'll happen in the future. And so you'd be getting like a big preview of things to come. But then Sam didn't work on that stuff. It was basically just handed off to William Messner Loebs, the writer of the MAXX, and like, just do what you want. So he took like what they knew so far in that and then just started writing things and making history up off of the details that he did have. And so he wrote practically a new story onto the backs of these cards with a lot of information that you never see in the comic books, some of which totally could be correct, and then some of it that goes against what you end up seeing in the comic books. So it's it's a fun like alternate take. It's practically like the William Messner Loebs version of the MAXX, and he wrote this probably between like May and June of 1993 is where I place it. So pretty early.
Early on, maybe during issue when we were hitting issue 2 of the MAXX or issue 3 while they're in production on those issues.
Yeah,
they're also working on this.
Yeah.
It was that period in comics too. It was like let's hit it while the iron's hot, you know, and derived products from these franchises. Image was one of the first to really, I think, other than Marvel and DC. Maybe I guess you could argue Kevin Eastman and Laird obviously were pretty good at marketing their creations, but Image were really in on it right away with the cards and the shirts, pogs for a while. Like there was all sorts of different stuff. So I feel like Keith was smart enough to at least get in on some of that. We got some interesting stuff like the cards, you know, like the audio cassette and see. Possibly, I think it was just maybe a cassette. I got the cassette anyways, and the MAXX animated TV series, right?
Yeah, I looked through the early issues before, and the amount of advertisements for products just increases, and MAXX specific products, not just people advertising the comic, but being like, "Hey, you like this series? Here's stuff." Because the trading cards are actually advertised in issue 1.
Oh, cool.
Like to start a comic, and like you're holding the first issue. This is the month you've been introduced to it beyond, you know, previews catalogs and Wizard magazine and whatnot. But the first time you're holding the issue in your hands, like, hey, are you liking this? Because we got a trading card series coming.
Yeah, it feels like Sam Keith again, as opposed to the some of the other Image guys, the Image founders that had issues with deadlines and product not coming out and all that. He was pretty smart about it because you're right. And you know, looking back, we did the review of all the MAXX stuff. I remember, you know, we talked about how Darker Image was meant to come out before MAXX #1, but it didn't work out that way. So, you know, it makes sense that, okay, you read about the MAXX and Wizard, right? You see the cover, famous Wizard issue that I love, my favorite that I've talked about many times. Wizard 16, check it out. You learn about the MAXX series. Then you get Darker Image. You learn more about the MAXX. There's no ads in Darker Image, are there? Maybe at the end, but not for the trading cards. And then boom, you hit issue 1 of the MAXX and then the trading card set, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, you're right. He must have already been working on a lot of the text for these cards right from the beginning, really. It makes sense to me. And they're based on his knowledge of the concept of the MAXX from those very, very early on issues, Darker Image, Image 1, or MAXX 1, MAXX #2.
Yeah, and he expands a lot. So it's fun to see where either he thought the series was going to go or where he wanted it to go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And good to see that he was also thinking that far ahead, as you know, he was brought in to help out Sam Keith with the plot and writing. Another question I have is, you mentioned these new pieces. Do they all kind of directly relate to the story that he's kind of elaborated throughout these cards? Like, is there a direct correlation, or is it just kind of random art put together with text?
So that part I'm not sure on, because I don't know if they were working on it concretely, or if like William Messner Loebs received the art and then had to go, okay, let me write a story,
Yes, that,
which is
that's kind of what I'm
probably the
getting
order
at.
it happened
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
Like he
yeah, yeah.
made this piece and now I need to say something about it. Is
Okay,
how,
so that could be a possibility as well. It could be
yeah.
one or the other. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Let's oh, okay, cool. So they, had the fun art piece for the box, which fun one to get started with, coming from Tops and Sam Keese. The Max, which also makes a lot of sense around with the trading cards of the time, because there was the Jim Lee X-Men trading cards. There was supposed to be the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man trading cards, which it still came out, but they just took his name off because they were angry at him.
And used a lot of his art from the comics, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I remember this period. I don't know anyone who wasn't back there, in the early 90s. Trading cards were just really huge. It kind of started with sports and stuff,
Mhm.
early on, and built up to where the late 80s, early 90s sports cards were huge. And then the comic book companies started making their own trading cards, right? Marvel did it first, and then DC. And it's funny because I have mentioned in my really early videos on the channel, um, what got me early on, kind of the baby steps before I started collecting actual comics, as I mentioned to you, right around the time of
Mhm.
X-Force #2, right? The early Jim Lee, X-Men, Rob Liefeld, X-Force. Um, I had been collecting the Marvel trading card set, the first one.
Mhm.
And
Oh
that's
yeah.
where I learned a lot of the
Yeah.
backstory and
Mhm.
eventually got interested in buying some of the comics, right?
Yeah.
From the trading cards. I'd read comics before, right? My friends' comics and stuff. I didn't avidly collect them. I had like a little pile of comics I've been carrying, throughout the years, some Archie stuff, whatever, Ninja Turtles. And yeah, the trading cards were definitely a gateway drug back into comic books, or mainstream comic books anyway.
All
Yeah,
right.
I think people forget how huge these were. Sorry, that was my point.
Yeah, no, trading
So
cards
it makes
definitely
total
took off.
sense. Yeah,
And it had to
total.
do with the fact that, as far as I know, sports cards were coming down a bit, and they were looking for the next thing. So then they latched on to comic book trading cards, and yeah, us kids liked comics, so we were like, oh, I need to have these cards, because I remember getting like Marvel series 1, 2, and 3. Um,
Yeah.
which, thinking back on it, was like, oh, I could have put that money into buying a lot more comic books and had more stories to read.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it was a
But that was
bad
the
move.
thing, you collected, the one I stopped at was when they came out with Pogs. When they started
Oh,
talking about, hey, you should
yeah,
collect
no
these, I was
interest.
like,
Mm-mm.
round pieces of cardboard? Like, no. At least the
Mm.
trading cards, you get some interesting art, you get some
Yeah,
stats. They're fun
yeah,
as a kid, you know what I mean?
yeah.
The artwork was generally pretty good on those
Hmm.
cards, you know what I mean? So their better artists were on them. But
Yep.
yeah, no, absolutely. The Pog was the worst. Like that's in around the downturn in all kind of collectibles and comic books and stuff in the early 90s. Well,
Yeah,
when the Pogs roll around, something's wrong.
it's not hitting the pogs. Um, so the cards. So what I did with the cards is I went through all the information that was on the backs and sort of categorize. I wrote it into a meaner, leaner version. So we'll just
Okay.
go through it. So this will be the details, but I've rewritten things a bit just to put it in a better order rather than going
Kind
like,
of condensed version of, yeah, I gotcha.
yeah, rather than going card by card of like, this card says this, but they're out of order. Like, this is very much into a succinct history order, so they'll work out a bit better. But these first two cards work work really well as I'll go through this, because this first one.
I just got to say right off the bat, two
Mhm.
pieces of MAXX artwork that I have personally never seen, so I'm very excited. Anytime I get to see, an artist that I really like, I get to see original art that I've never seen before,
Uh-huh.
I get excited. Both these pieces look really cool. Sorry for the interruption.
So these would be some of the original ones that were done for the card series. So
Yeah.
you get a card piece that's a stone tablet, and then next to it you get obviously this rabbit, sort of rabbity mask, or sort of the Max mask.
Yeah.
It's
It's like a
different.
tribal version of the MAXX mask. It's very
Yeah.
cool. Like I can almost imagine the Outback version of the MAXX maybe sporting this, right? Like
Oh
that'd
yeah,
be
being more different than he was.
yes,
Absolutely.
then he is in the
Mhm.
real reality or
Yeah.
whatever.
So we've got, this is the history that was written in a time of great need. a seed bringer, who we'll get to later, one of the outback cultures, it's a role in the outback. A seed bringer will find an ordinary man and raise him up into a hero and redeemer. That was direct word for word. However, the tablet doesn't mention how the ordinary man will react to being turned into a huge purple killing machine. Still with William Esner Loebs. The nature of the MAXX is inexplicably bound with the spirit of the great white hare, a trickster totem of the outback, and nothing further is known. So William Esner Loebs was likening that there was a spirit animal in the outback, and that this mask, that the MAXX would be tied to that spirit, which is partially correct, that there's this rabbit influence, but not where they actually went with it.
Yeah.
And in no point in the comic do you ever encounter a seed bringer.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Sam Keith eventually, as he moved along and Messner Loebs was less and less involved and not involved, it kind of became more of a down-to-earth story with kind of crazy elements still added in. Where here it feels like Messner Loebs is really trying to build some sort of mythology, which makes sense, you know, with comic books, legacies, you know, all that those kind of ideas. And, you know, anytime you create a new character, you're trying to create their legend, their legacy, their backstory. And already, like what he's given us just with these two cards and the text you read is awesome. It's really evoking. Again, we talked about this. What I expected more from the MAXX in those early days of hearing about it, reading those first few issues.
Yeah, we liked the outback and we wanted more of it. And William Messner Loebs wanted to give us more of it.
He knew that. Clearly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the more interesting aspect. I just got to say, at least for me, right?
Yeah. No, completely agree. So then they had the mask again, but with the great white hare.
But even that mask is, again, a little different. It's like another version of it. It's really cool.
Oh,
really
absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. And then getting to the MAXX. So this furthers the early description of the MAXX. Deep within the twisted bowels of the city sleeps a masked man, once an ordinary homeless man, outcast and alone, living in a leaky cardboard box in the waste of an alley, dreaming that he was a figure of power, a great leader, a fighter, and a protector of the weak. So as if like he fantasized about being this thing before he actually became it. Which would make sense if he was grabbed and turned into this thing. If he was like, oh, here's a guy who wants to be a hero. Let's let him actually be a hero. But then, and this goes against what actually happens in the comic, but one fateful day, he found a strange fetish mask, put it on his face, and became the MAXX, a man living between two worlds. And like, we know from the MAXX series, that's not how it went. He didn't find a mask and then like put it on and become this thing, which would be a little more similar to some more stereotypical comic stuff of where you come across something and then become a hero because of the thing you found. That's a lot of heroes in the
happens all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the mask from Dark Horse is literally that as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It comes across
not
the
a
mask.
hero necessarily, but yeah.
Yeah. And throws it on his face. Very similar to that. Yeah.
Whoever gets powers from finding a magical butt plug, like I haven't seen that yet.
Oh God, don't give Garth Ennis ideas. You know he's going to do that. Oh, you know, this is exactly something. The fact that that didn't happen in The Boys is surprising. Yeah, versus what we know in the comic book is based on how it comes down the line. We find out that Julie hit this homeless guy with her car because she had previously been attacked. So when he came out, she just thought he was coming at her. So she hit him with their car, got out. And then instead of calling an ambulance or the police, she instead started covering him with trash, including this lampshade that she put over his head, but a lampshade that had slipped through a rip into the outback. And Mr. Gone, who was watching her do all this stuff from the outback, pushed that lampshade back through. So the lampshade itself was affected by the outback, and when placed on the mask on the guy homeless guy, it formed into this mask. It's like brought some of the magic or power back. Although we also find out that the Outback is just a place in Julie's mind where her inner child runs to hide and be sort of safe from the things she's gone through in the real world, and that Mr. Gone is literally like waltzing around in her mind. So it's well, then really the mask is affected by her inner turmoil or whatever, and is coming back out into the real world. So now that makes it more convoluted.
It is. It is the Sam Keith version for sure. Is definitely more out there. You know what I mean? It's you know, definitely, as you said, convoluted, a little harder to follow. A little like you're. I've read the series and you're explaining the details, and I'm kind of running them through my head. I'm like, oh yeah, that was really weird. And like, granted, I'm more than willing to accept a lot of weirdness for the MAXX, but Sam Keith really pushed it as opposed to the stuff that Messner Lowe's is proposing here. And it's at least a little more easy to digest, I guess is how I'd put it.
Yeah. So in the city.
Sorry, can you go back real quick? I just have a question of a general nature. With the MAXX's design when he's in the Outback, I really like here that it's kind of the first time we're getting a clear shot of most of his anatomy and his look and stuff. So this might be the first time I noticed he's got added feathers on his boots as well at the bottom, which I think is kind of a fun detail. The thing, he's got a few feathers here as well, like the mask on the left. But
and he has hair, which he didn't have.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that's hair, or because I don't know, I've always thought it's either hair or possibly like a pelt.
Oh, like a mane. Yeah, like
like it's part of his costume more so than hair.
Oh, you know I mean? Yeah, it's
because he doesn't have all of these in the real world when he's the homeless guy. He doesn't have the feathers and he doesn't have that thing. I always wondered if maybe it was a pelt as opposed to
like a headdress that he puts on.
Yeah, it's because it's all very kind of tribal inspired, right? You can tell from the masks and the feathers. All of these are very tribal kind of elements. So I was like, I don't know for sure. I can see it as both, but I've always felt like it's a pelt. So you're the first person I've ever asked this.
Yeah, no, could be. It's not specified, but that's
it never is, right? Yeah.
No.
I just find it fits with the vibe of the Outback and that whole tribal thing. So yeah, these are quickly drawn.
Yeah.
Not that they're bad. Not that they're bad.
We get a series of volcanoes, and then we get the MAXX just posed next to a volcano that's going off. Well, these details actually still relate to the city first. In the city, he wanders the back alleyways, an Avenger, more brutal than the criminals that he fights, knowing little of his past or why he follows this strange path. Now, that does follow, like, that all fits with the MAXX that we saw early on, because we saw him fight criminals. We didn't get to see a lot of it. We got to see it quickly, and then it kind of, like, the idea of it was there, but we didn't really get to see it play out more. And the fact that he doesn't remember who he is or why he does what he does, that all plays into what we saw in the early days. However, when migraines hit the MAXX, he starts seeing flashing lights, and there's music playing in his head, and his blood starts pumping, and he has pulsing drum beats going on, and just has to curl into a ball, according to this, and is transported to Pangea, the Outback, a fierce elemental land that he sees as Australia. So that somewhat plays like that. All we did see in the comic book, we did see in like the backseat of the car where he's like, "Oh no, not again," and he's just laid out back. Showed up back in Pangea. So primitive MAXX, this is where it'll step away a bit. He's a creature of power and grace, a jungle lord who rules by strength and cunning. So we never actually see him exactly
doing any of that.
Outback. No, and in our first encounter with him in Darker Image, well, it's really the second one, but we see him running from a much bigger creature and having to get out of there. We never see him much of a tribe. We don't see him saving anybody while he's there, because we only get.
I never got the sense that he in any way maybe even knew other people other than Julie, and even in the Outback.
Yeah.
I never got a sense that he had a group or a tribe of some
Mm-mm.
sort. Like
Yeah.
that's never even implied.
Yeah. Um, so he suffers amnesia in the outback as well. So that
Of
carries
course.
over.
Yeah.
And but because can't remember anything, he's like confident and feels really good about himself. Because I guess like, yeah, if you were a homeless guy and you forgot you were a homeless guy, that would be
That would feel pretty good. Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
From going to that to being the king of a magical land.
yeah,
Yeah, that sounds better. I'll take
absolutely.
magical land leader. Yeah.
So I won't be able to do the pronunciation of this, but the native creatures of Pangea call him Jagum Jamakni.
Okay. I'll go with
Yeah.
that.
Which translates to he who screams in the night like the lion without fear. Which,
But I thought, like, I read from, I think I mentioned this before, maybe last video, but I thought his name was Brer Lappin.
well, yeah,
Didn't Mr.
that's another one because there'll be other
Right?
tribal names that come up. This is what the
Mr.
tribes people are calling him.
Oh, so there's multiple odd names that relate to the Max in the Outback.
This is a tribe who just like
They
here
call
he
him
is,
that.
here he is
Yeah.
out in the night in the middle place just screaming. I guess kind of like a lion's roar, and there's tribes people just this is what they named him. They gave him this name.
Okay. So maybe some other tribe calls him Poopy Pants. All
Yeah.
right.
JG McNee. I can't pronounce it. But of course, this doesn't pop up. And then it goes on that he roams the outback dressed in his strange fetish mask, ornate giant boots. That's all we, of course. And finds out that he has claws. So he discovers that he has claws, but they are dull and scaly and itch like fire. This more Mesner Loeb's writing, until he sharpens his claws by slicing them into a volcano. That's why they have the volcano part here. We
Okay.
don't really
That
see him
makes sense.
slice
Yeah.
into it, but he slices into the volcano, and the erupting volcano plunges them into the molten lava, and that tempers the blades, makes them razor sharp. So apparently, he struck into a volcano and covered him in molten lava.
So that
Uh,
is present in the Max and a Half, I think. Right?
yeah,
That story.
we
Yeah.
we kind of get a little bit of
It's similar. It's just one quick shot where he mentions plunging his claws into lava.
uh-huh. And oh, I'm sorry. So I left out a detail. His instincts tell him that his mask and his boots are alive. So the Max's costume, there's multiple details of it being its own thing. That it's a living thing.
Oh,
Which,
really?
which the only reference we get to that in the comic book is when Julie's like the cops say that you bit one of them, and he's like, "No, it was the mask. The mask did it. I didn't bite that cop. The mask bit him."
Oh, that's right. I remember that line.
So
Yeah,
there was
that's
that one
interesting.
small reference, but then
Yeah,
that plays into like, is this guy crazy? Because we don't ever get a
of course. Yeah. You could write it off as just, yeah, he's kind of a crazy person. So, but it's kind of interesting that maybe Sam Keith, this is just conjecture on my part, but was thinking like, well, Spawn has a living costume and
yeah,
Venom has a living
yeah,
costume. So, that kind of be, a little bit copycatty. So I feel like he got rid of that detail.
yeah. So the very popular at the time, and yeah, absolutely, he might have gone with
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. It was
Hmm.
an easy way to accept a costume that can't exist really, I guess, or that's not particularly realistic. Like Spawn, why are his chains always floating in the air? Well, because they're alive.
Yeah, moving
Yeah,
around.
it works. I mean,
Yeah,
I can accept it for Spawn because he's kind of like, if I look back, there's probably Venom is the template for that, but even then I could be wrong. But it seems like, and then you get Spawn, and then you start getting Carnage and all these other
yeah.
crazy characters with that
I'll
same
build off
concept.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and with this one, the first few issues are out, so Mesner Loeb may have simply worked off of the fact of him saying, "Oh, I didn't bite him. The mask did it." Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the mask's alive.
Well, he had established that idea, so yeah, he's just extrapolating a little bit.
Yeah. So this volcano, after he had hit it, it erupts for a week, which leads to the indigenous folk naming him "He who nurses at the fiery heart of the world." So they gave him another name, although we don't get a translation this time.
Okay.
And again, we never see tribes, we never see folk in the outback. We never get the world as populated as that, which is too bad. That would have been a fun thing to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, would have been fun. Would have liked to have seen it. So then it goes on to say that the MAXX after this becomes very powerful, and that his claws and his eyes glow brightly. So it's like a small power, which makes it hard for him to sneak up on people, although somehow he still is able to, despite the fact that he glows in the dark. And then it goes on, again, this Messner Loeb's writing, with thews hardened in battle, claws hardened in lava, and his face hidden. He battles from abstract rock masses of the outback to the grimy back alleys of the city. But to what end? Time alone may tell, warrior dreamer. He is the king of the wild places, the mighty protector of the defenseless, the walker of great grassed plains. He is the MAXX. So he gets a lot of grandiose verbiage, poetic descriptions in there.
Yeah, it's definitely more kind of epic already with what you're reading than the actual MAXX series, to be honest. Like I'm already like, I'm watching a widescreen movie here with this narration that I'm getting, right? And
Yeah.
then the MAXX series just becomes kind of a small personal kind of indie movie or TV
Yes,
show.
it does.
Like the vibe, right?
Yeah, very much.
I'm also amazed, like it just dawned on me now where I'm looking at this drawing of the MAXX here, which is cool. But
Yeah.
again, another piece that, as you said, was probably done fairly quickly.
Yeah.
I'm like, did Sam Keith design the MAXX's hands that way? Just because hands are hard to draw, and he could get away with just doing something like this.
No, so I mean, he does great art and finding spots where you can get through quickly.
Yeah, I know he can draw hands.
Yeah,
But,
he draws great
like,
hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, if he made a way to do it quicker in some scenes, we get this cool building shot. So this is starting to build on what the city's supposed to look like, and there's a bunch of interesting city stuff that'll happen. So it carries on with the MAXX coming back into the real world. So now Scott goes on. While his fluorescent quality of his claws and eyes make him a figure of mystery in the primitive outback, in the city, the effect of a glowing MAXX charging out of an alley while shrieking a terrible war chant makes many evildoers convert to the Quaker faith on the spot. Why the Quaker faith, I don't know. That's just what William Messner Loeb chose to pick. But yeah, you could imagine in a magical outback, a guy with glowing eyes and claws looks powerful, but at home. So yeah, obviously, if he suddenly is back in the real world and comes charging out of an alleyway, it's going to be a completely different effect on regular people seeing it.
Yeah, it's a crazy guy coming at me.
Yeah, and the claws, of course, his eyes and claws don't glow in the series. Like that doesn't actually happen in the comic book.
Time out, real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just got a call. I gotta call this guy back. Just give me a sec. It won't be long, but
all right.
For tire change for the car. Stupid winter. Well, now it's spring, so. Oh, great. I'm on hold already. Got things to say about this one on the right, but save it for the pod, man.
Yeah, I'm going to hit pause recording.
Okay. Yeah.
So then it gets into some more details on the cards. The fact that the MAXX outweighs his opponents, but it says he's not a very good fighter, and that smaller opponents have beaten him with mustard to the face and a trash can lid to the head, which sounds new, but that happens in Darker Image too, like we were looking at And the last issue, the guy squeezes mustard in his face and then hits him with a trash can lid. So he just recycles that information.
Because that bit from where did you say it was from again? From Darker Image 2,
yeah.
which was never published, was published later in an issue of the MAXX.
Yeah.
So in the series, it gets introduced very much later. But here, because I guess this is, like we talked about earlier, being written at the same time as those early issues of Darker Image and the MAXX and stuff, it's still very much part of his lore, where in the series it ends up not being part of it for a really long time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's a very big opponent and has a huge advantage, but it's just not that good in combat.
But the whole mustard thing, it kind of eventually does become part of his thing. Because I'm just saying that because like the fan project that you're working on for the MAXX, I created an illustration for that. It's specifically one from that issue I remember where he's talking about his hatred of mustard, or I don't know exactly how he puts it.
Yeah, he'd have a real issue if he fought the Condiment King, one of Batman's silly.
Oh, there is a guy, the Condiment.
Yeah, it's like one of the silly 70s opponents that's probably inspired by the 60s TV show.
That's quite an interesting theme, though, when you're a villain to go with condiments. But
yeah, Condiment King. Yeah.
Are people just slipping and sliding all over condiments throughout the issue?
I don't know, man. I didn't actually didn't read them. Just know
about. Sound like something I'd want to read.
So then also this gets into thing with the MAXX and his appearance, because within the series, like we always see the MAXX in his costume and his mask with his claws, but he's just walking around the city. Very much like kind of the Ninja Turtles, where like they used to walk around the city in trench coats and hats and nobody would really notice them, but it's like it's not that good of a disguise. Like from a distance, you might not notice that that's a giant turtle in a coat and a hat. Like if they're, a couple blocks down the street in the middle of the night too, sure, you could get away with that. But if you walk past them, you're immediately like, even if you're on your phone, you'd see them.
Well, even from far away, I'd at least be like, that's an oddly proportioned man.
Shape, yeah. It's a very portly, round, large guy.
Who's this portly fellow with a huge head?
It would be like that, yeah. But the MAXX,
but that'd be the extent of it, yeah.
The MAXX walks around during the daytime, though. He's out in the streets when it's bustling and busy. So there's just no way he actually looks like that and is walking around and
unnoticed. Yeah.
Yeah. No way. So in Mr. Loeb's, this is how he writes it. With only a trench coat and hat to help disguise his claws and massive bulk, the MAXX walks among normal city folk unrecognized. Truly thanks to their willful ignorance. As if like they just choose not to see him. They see him, but they choose not to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm pretty much assuming, I don't know for sure if it's ever been established in which city the MAXX takes place, but I feel like it's possibly New York or a version of New York. So to a certain extent, New York can have that vibe of people, just so many people, weird looking. If you see something even slightly weird peripherally in your vision, you're just going to keep walking, right? So, I mean, I can kind of buy it in that people just don't want to go in. Even if you do notice what he looks like, you're just like, I just do not want to get involved in any way with what is clearly a crazy person, right? So I guess maybe that's what he's going for. But it's an odd kind of bit to his lore, I guess.
Yeah. And so he kind of goes along. As long ago, the city folk stopped paying attention to the refuge and basically homeless people. Like that's become the culture. So it fits into New York, as you're saying. But then to them, the MAXX is merely a strange urban myth. So that's a slightly different take of like people in the city believe, like they've heard about the MAXX, almost like early rummagings of Batman, of where like there's a dude running around the city fighting crime dressed as the Bat. No way. So in this case, like people have heard about the MAXX, but he's an urban legend.
It almost feels a little bit like they were touching on that a little bit in Spawn as well, where there's a legend of a bum named Al at first, right? this bum owl who has magical powers.
Yeah, it sounds funny when you say it out loud.
Oh yeah, yeah, because his name is Owl instead of
Yeah.
Spawn for sure.
Mhm.
And if I'm not mistaken, I'm probably kind of quoting, paraphrasing, really the Frank Miller stuff. I feel like that's Frank Miller thing. This magical bum called Al, either from
Oh,
the
uh-huh.
Spawn Batman or the
Yeah.
issue that he.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And so he's an urban myth. So only children and poor people notice him as he waltzes around the city.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, children, because they're innocent and they pay attention to things.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's basically giving the image that all the rest of the people in the city are just they got too much going on to even bother noticing this giant purple monstrosity with claws walking
It's
around in
so
a trench coat and hat.
cynical that yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier. Is like in that mindset of this kind of storyline he's setting up. If you're a denizen of New York walking, and you just peripherally see this weird
yeah,
shaped human dressed in purple and yellow,
yeah.
you're just gonna keep like clearly this person is deranged.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna divert my attention to see more of that weirdness.
Listen, so
Like
much stuff happens in the city. I
I
still
kind
got
of
to get
like
to
that.
my
I kind
I
of
still
like
got to
that.
get to my restaurant job, and there's a little acting gig I'm trying out for later. I don't. We see a lot
They're
of
wait
stuff,
they're
man.
waiting for me in HR. I gotta go.
Yeah,
You get.
and to be fair, there's a lot of street performers, and there's just so many people, and some of them are on drugs and whacked out, which I don't want to deal with either. So,
So some of this text behind this image on the right. Is that like
um,
the legend of the Max? Someone's done some kind of Max graffiti somewhere in the city. Is that what's kind of you know?
oh, so there's a shot of the city, which there's more description of the city, which comes along as we go. So,
Okay, gotcha.
mind you, I'm kind of only showing us the original cards versus this is all spread out across 90 cards, half of which were from the comic.
In the comic,
I'm not
yeah.
showing. Yeah. So, not all of this is written onto a single card now. Um, so, then here's a completely original detail that doesn't exist within the comic. Sadly, the citizens of this fair city decided to punish the government by refusing to pay taxes. So this is alluding to the city being very downtrodden and downhill, which is why we see would have seen in Darker Image #2, fight some thugs and one of them gets away. But then in Darker Image, we see a couple thugs attack the woman, and the taxi driver is in on it.
Yeah, they're trying to imply that it's a bad kind of neighborhood in a bad city or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the cops, like, they kind of mention everywhere is full. Like, where do we take this guy? And they're like, oh, we can't
Yeah.
take him here. We can't take him here. So there's a lot going on. And then he's just sitting in a cell. And one of the cops like, yeah, if you come by and bring me the regular bribe, I can let your guy out. So there's
Yeah.
yeah. And
It's almost like it's got a bit of, Gotham City, New York, a bit of you know, is it LA in Blade Runner? I'm not sure. But I get a bit of that vibe overall, right? Like
yeah. And
even this
LA,
image here, I feel like there's a little bit of Blade Runner in it, although it doesn't seem quite as futuristic. It does seem, like you said, downtrodden and kind of dilapidated. Yeah. I
so
like it's
yeah,
an interesting.
the
Sorry,
citizens stopped paying taxes, so the city's fallen into despair, disrepair, and disuse. All his words. Uh, to the east side, where the Max lives, it's filled with homeless people, criminals, and people who have just been pushed out of society via poverty. So homeless people and economic misery, or maybe people who are almost homeless, whatever people are doing on very low level life, which this isn't discussed in the series. So then gets into Max's home, which we don't see. It was in Darker Image 2, that comic that we looked at. He lives in a dumpster behind Amish Ed's Chicken Shack. Julio, who runs the Chicken Shack, doesn't mind the Max being out there because he keeps the alley safe. Which, yeah, if you've ever worked a job where you have to take the trash out late at night and like into a back area and like maybe open the door and you're like looking first to like make sure no one's out there because it's late at night and it's dark, and if somebody jumped you,
tends to be a seedy environment. Yeah.
yeah. So Julio's cool with like, hey, we got this giant weird purple guy back there, but he doesn't hurt us, and he definitely runs off anybody else. So we're gonna we're gonna go with this. Also, apparently, he's keeping the rat population under control. The Max, for whatever reason.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever and however he's doing that is not explained.
Nope. Yep. We don't get into
What
that.
would you what would be your best guess? I'm like, is it his body odor? Is he
Yeah.
eating them?
Is he
Like those are
eating the rat?
those were my first two go-tos. Is like,
Yeah.
is he eating them, killing them, or is his odor so, disgusting that even the rats don't want to be there?
The rats sense what a top level predator he is and just stay away.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe he pees in the corners and like, yeah.
And Max likes this living in this dumpster because it's a nice quiet place where he can be undisturbed and think about old Cheers episodes, which does
And that was
yeah.
a thing. Yeah, I remember.
So
I want
yeah.
to just real quick before I forget. I really want to talk about this depiction of the city here that he's done, because I just find it so interesting. Because again, as I said, this is all new to me, new artwork I've never seen before. I find like the depiction he's got here is in line with some of the elements of the city that we see in the series. Julie's apartment, the round kind of deco design to the apartments and stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like the look he's establishing here, we didn't get a lot of in the series. We get those shots, and then we get a lot of kind of lower level, street level, alleyway shots, and that.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, a shot that's kind of similar to this, I think, would have been really awesome in the series, because I'm getting a better sense of the city that he's in, and the overall architecture, and again, that dilapidated kind of characteristic that it has. And I find like this image here just really defines it well, where again, I don't know if it's ever been specifically said that it takes place in New York. Do you, like the series?
I don't remember if it does, but it's definitely a city.
It's a city that could be like that, but here I find like this image really, on top of what I've seen in the series already, really gives me kind of a more definitive, distinctive version of the MAXX's city. And I could be like, well, I don't think it is New York. You know what I mean? It's probably another sprawling metropolis, but again, it's got a little bit of a slight kind of post-apocalyptic vibe that I really like, that I think would have been cool to see more of in the series. We never really got those further away establishing shots showing us what the city looks like. There's not a lot of those. And that one's just really cool. And I like the collage kind of element that he's got on there. At least I feel like some of these labels, that's what he's used actual things he's probably cut out from the newspaper or something, worked it into the artwork. And I like the depiction at the bottom. I'm going to assume that he's trying to tell us that like this part of the city's by the water or right on the edge of the water. And it almost gives it, in a weird way, with the building on the right, the architecture, a slight kind of European vibe. And I almost get the feeling that it's like this decrepit version of Venice, Yeah. And I really like it. I just think this one image here really evokes a lot more about the city than what I ever really gotten in the series, in a weird way. And I got to say, Sam Keith depicting water at the bottom there, making it really dark with a highlight in the foreground and then really light in the background. I'm just loving all of it here.
Yeah, it's one of the really good images for sure.
Very evocative. The textures are amazing. Yeah. Sorry, I went on that one.
No, that's why we're discussing it as two people. So yeah, there's the trash can, the dumpster that he's living in. So then it goes on to when the dumpster is full, or when the Max finds himself on the west side of the city, he sleeps in his cardboard box. So as we were talking, I think the other time, of like, okay, so he's got different homes across the city, different resting spots, at least two. He's got this dumpster that he lives behind this restaurant, which of course does not come up in the city, or doesn't come up in the series because we don't get darker image number 2. And then he's got his box, which we do know him very well for. And it just happened to detail that originally the box was filled with lettuce and musty vegetables, and the odor reminds the Max of Australia, the outback.
That's interesting.
Jungle of the outback. He's sleeping in a vegetable box because it smells like home, the outback.
Interesting. I like that. Nice little detail.
And when he falls asleep, he often will reawaken in the outback.
Of course.
He's a tortured hero of the streets. These are some of the card labels. The Max is a hero because he wants to be one, but his efforts are continually thwarted by secret agendas, sorcerer conspiracies. That again, William Messner Loeb's giving a lot of flowery language. His grip
Being
on
vague
reality.
enough
Yeah,
so that yeah.
yeah. He's filling out language with expressive words while not really giving any
Not
concrete
pinning things
details.
down, you know what I mean? Like he's giving you, what you want, but for whenever maybe these concepts will be developed later, he's
Yeah,
not detailing it too much. Yeah.
yeah. It reminds me of writing book reports when I was a kid, where it's like, oh, I got to get to this word total,
Yeah.
and I don't really have anything more to say about this. So I just got to expand the language a bit.
Let's add some adjectives. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I got to get less concise with my writing.
Oh, that was one of the things you go. It's funny you mentioned that. I was always like, man, I hated doing those because it's always like, I could get to the point of what I'm trying to say really quickly, but
Mhm,
I got to do 500 words. So yeah, like, firstly, secondly, if all the
mhm.
I forget what you call those words, but yeah, anything you could flowery is a good word that you use. Yeah,
Oh,
fluff. I liked calling it fluff.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So 100% that. So anyways, it goes on with the Max as he's trying to fight and help save the city, but his efforts are thwarted by government effectively and sorcerers, Mr. Gone. So his grip on reality is slipping away in response to apparently hatred and betrayal that he sees around him, which is causing him to be more violent. So people are betraying him, something that we don't really see in the series. We see Julie on his side, and we don't see people turning against him. But there's this continued projection of this city having issues. Um, and the Max is afraid that as he's losing his grip on reality, he's becoming angrier and more violent and turning into a creature of rage, which we don't we see hints that that could have been something because of the way he attacks these thugs and chases after the is and beats stuff up in the first couple issues, but we never see this actually happen. So there's a lot of sort of playing off of the early elements that maybe we saw on the page, but it's not actually talked about. But it's possible, like this could be there. Um, and as more and more of the outback leaks into the city, which is a cool concept. We don't see that. Well, we see the is come through, but we don't ever have scenes of like more elements of the outback like actually showing up in the city. Like if he had gone to like a park and the park now looked more like the outback, that would have been cool, but we don't get that.
Yeah, because even later on, they find kind of a way to do it visually. Where I remember with the pit crossover, you've got the shot of the air whale, and
Uh-huh.
then you're
Yeah.
seeing like a panel that kind of shows you that in reality, it's actually, I think, the Goodyear blimp or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So not the actual air whale in the city,
Yeah. So so this would have been a very different story, and it's probably elements from what Darker Image was supposed to show, issues 2, 3, and 4. Well, or issue 3 and 4 that we didn't get to see. As more and more of the outback leaks into the city, and Mr. Gone releases a blood-starved army of is upon the people. So at some point, he was supposed to really open a rip and just the is come through and descend on the city. We didn't get to see, but that probably would have played into Darker Image 3 and 4. Um, the Max finds himself lost in a maze of violence from which there is no escape. Again, there's just a lot of like language expressing some simple ideas. Battered and torn, the Max fights on, desperate to end the reign of terror that grips his city. So he really was projected to be battling against Mr. Gone.
Yeah, it definitely
And
sounds like a more kind of conventional approach
yeah,
to what is honestly a fairly unconventional superhero comic, maybe more so in the hands of William Messner Loebs, as we're seeing here, where with Sam Keith, it really just goes even weirder. It's already kind of strange and in left field, and it just gets stranger. This
yeah,
definitely feels almost more like I kind of feel it as a movie script or something, right? Like the ultimate confrontation at the end between Mr. Gone and
yeah.
the Max, which in the comic, I don't know if we really get it in such a cut and dry fashion. We get confrontations
Mhm.
between Mr. Gone and the Max, but it gets convoluted eventually as to you know, again, if Mr. Gone actually is a bad guy or not, or yeah,
Yeah, and they also have conversations, and they share information
where
back
they're
and
not
forth, and yeah,
exactly, yeah, they're not always at each other's throat, right?
yeah. Um, so it's just details. The Max, his costume from battling is like ripped to shreds, and his mind is coming apart, and his life is in ruin, and he finds himself brooding in dead end alleys on the west side of Rodden Street. Just small, throwaway details. But I like what William Mesderlos does here. The city seems to welcome each new manifestation of evil, but turns its back on him. Even
Okay,
more, he
so
wonders why his costume repairs itself, even in the middle of a fight. So again, with the costume being alive, being
like Spawn, yeah, very
Mhm.
Spawn, and
Left,
even this idea that the city itself is against him, right?
yeah, the city's really just like evil is coming into the city, and the city's just so downtrodden. It's like whatever. I'm too concerned with my thing to bother with how the city's falling apart. So left contemplating the damage of his life, the Max is gripped with fury. He no longer remembers his past life. We do see that. What his face looks like beneath the mask, we saw that. And worse, he cannot summon the courage to lift the mask and see what lies beneath. We did see that play out. Adding to his angst is his suspicion that his origin may have something to do with the appearance of the sinister sorcerer Mr. Gone, which is true. It does have something to do with him, as we find out later, because Mr. Gone pushed the lampshade back through the outback into the real world,
Portal,
which
yeah.
Julie then put on his face. So it does play in. Though his former life is a blank to him, one memory survives, that of Julie Winters, for she exists in both worlds as well. So it does set up this element that, like, when he goes from the city to the outback, the outback's a whole different world, but Julie's there.
Yeah.
And that's true. It's being done in a different way here, but that's true. In the city, she's a freelance social worker, but in the outback, she's queen of the leopard women, to whom the Max has pledged to worship and protect. Also pretty true.
I got to ask, a freelance social worker, how does that work exactly? Does she get contracts from the government? Or
No, it's a fake. She is just a person doing what she chooses to do in life, and she came into some money, so she's using her independent money to try to help people,
okay,
but she acts like she has a job. So she has an office set up, but it's
yeah,
all just her doing her own thing. There's no backing. It's just her deciding who she wants to help.
okay,
Kind
so
of
it's
like,
self-financed. I got you.
yeah, yes. Yeah, it's all a big fake. She could
Because
get
like
a real
I've never
social
heard
worker
of
job.
any kind of contract work and along those lines. So
No,
yeah.
no, there's no such thing as a freelance social worker. That's just oh, what do they call that? I mean, you're just helping people because you choose to, but you're also choosing which people to help. But if you'll remember, there was Sam and Max, and they were freelance police.
Obviously, yeah, that just
Yeah, so I
doesn't
wonder if
exist.
that gag was humorous. So he
Oh, gotcha.
decided to have a freelance social worker, another job that is not a freelance gig.
Yeah, I would think being a freelance police officer would be illegal.
Yes, it would, and there is certain jobs for that. That would be security guard.
Private investigator.
Yeah, private investigator, certain elements, yeah, bounty hunter still exists. There are freelance versions of police work.
Just not actual freelance police officers.
Yes, not a full born. There aren't people that are patrolling the roads, pulling people over and going, "Hey, freelance police officer,
That
here's a
would
ticket."
basically be a vigilante. Ultimately, that's basically what that is.
Yeah, right. An investigator follows people around and collects information but doesn't confront them. The bounty hunters are actually picking up bounties and going after people that the law said you could chase. And what's the other? And security guards privately guard a, a business. And that's the scope of their powers. And then when there's a problem, they call the police.
Yeah.
Um, so Julie Winters, and think some of these details will be new. She's an architect. Well, I think this did come out, but she's an architecture student at the Downtown University, unspecific. She was attacked in the streets, left for dead, and afterwards she resolved to save other people who were poor, victimized, lonely, friendless from the plagues of the city. Again, the city sucks. There's roving street gangs, hired thugs, the police, got to look out for them because they're often not much better than the people they're protecting you against. This is on the back of the cards.
Yeah, this all sounds now kind of like the Image universe's New York. I'm thinking of Pitt.
Yeah.
You know, the Shadowhawk, the gangs everywhere. Yeah, crime is rampant. So it could be Image version New York. Could
yeah. So as a freelance social worker, Julie uses her money, sharp wits, and sharper tongue to give those who might otherwise sink into chaos and despair a second chance. She spends a great deal of time at the jail, which we see her go to the jail. This is expanding on it, shopping for new clients, and bailing out poor people who would otherwise rot in the jail. And that's where she met the MAXX. So according to this, she met him because she just went to the jail and was looking to like help people, and he was there, and that's how they met. And but that when she met him there was a bond between them, as if two souls that touched from across the abyss of convicts. So it gives them like this deep spiritual connection, but as if like they saw each other and felt it, versus the actual bond that's there where she hit a homeless guy with her car.
Yeah. I mean, it alludes to, I guess, the fact that they're connected in the Outback as well, right? So, you know, maybe they've already met in the Outback and now they're meeting in the real world and they're feeling that connection, right?
Yeah, that's a good take of it. Her best contact in the police department is Carl O'Connor. I don't know if that's the actual name he had in the comic. Who's a 15-year veteran of the force with significant gambling debts, and who, for a price, is more than willing to inform her when one of her clients is brought in. So, I mean, that's a detail that could have been there. We didn't get it from the comic book, but we did see a police officer who was taking effectively bribes from her to tell her that the MAXX was there and also let him out of jail.
Well, it's almost like, you know, he's created this backstory for a character that we just glance at real quickly in the comic. If I'm not mistaken, the cop is even just like a silhouette drawing. I don't remember any specific like facial features or anything. So he really kind of takes the time here to flesh out things that the series just kind of glances over real quickly. It's interesting.
Yeah.
The fact that, I mean, maybe because she had to bribe him, that's where he's like, oh, because he needs money, because he's got gambling problems, right?
Yeah. Nope, it's definitely writerly stuff. And also if you it's like when Michael Caine mentioned when he was playing Alfred in the Batman movie, he went and wrote his own origin, which isn't in the film, but he went ahead and started like, oh yeah, because my guy used to work for this, so that's why I have these skills. I think he wrote himself in as having been a former like
MI6 or something, or like
it was like a spy. He was a British spy.
Yeah, MI6. That's the
so that's why he would pick up these skills.
Like the British CIA, basically.
Yes. And so he would be able to help out Bruce, who doesn't have that background, do a lot of the things that he needs to do by mentoring him and be like, okay, well, here's how you could accomplish this, which, we saw that Alfred was very useful. Why? We didn't really get his background. So, he wrote
But they did establish that in the comics at some point, though. No, am I wrong?
They did do a take of that. Yeah. In the original comics, he was a butler, but there have been versions of it where Alfred he worked.
Like they've retconned that he was a military specialist or
he's not just some very useful butler. He formerly had skills.
But interesting that a trained, you know, let's say military British SAS MI6 guy would just decide to become a butler after his military career.
It's some rich, wealthy people. Yeah.
I guess he was getting a really good salary. Maybe he was just tired of the grind and
better be a good salary, right? Yeah, he doubled as
Babysitting
a
this
butler
brat
slash
here.
bodyguard.
Yeah. Having to babysit this brat Bruce.
Yeah.
Because before his parents died, Bruce is just a spoiled rich kid.
Yeah, maybe. We don't even know. He was just a kid.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just throwing that. I'm not like tied to it here. I'm just riffing.
All right. This is back on Julie. Possessed of a strong and eccentric taste and fashion, Julie amazes friends, family, and innocent bystanders with her body conscious finery and uptown attitude. So it's like she acts greater than thou while dressing in very alternative dime store clothes that she threw together or maybe possibly sewed. When chastised by a traveling evangelical for dressing like a strumpet, it's a nice word for
He
woman,
pulled that one out of the
or
1800s.
yeah, yes, an old, very flirtatious girl. Julie sniffed. Right, like I should take advice from a man who dresses like an undertaker with sequin poisoning. Okay.
That's odd.
Yeah, and I don't think we saw that in the book. We did see something similar to that. There was a confrontation before about her defending her fashion.
Well, it was there's a homeless guy she's talking to, and he's like, he says you dress kind of funny, kind of like a hooker,
Yeah,
right? And she
yeah,
says, you know, retorts something. I'm paraphrasing, but like this from a man who sleeps in his own urine or something
yeah. There's
along
something
those
like
lines.
that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he basically creates another scenario like that.
Yeah, with less confusing language.
And so to some, Julie seems like a joke, but to those she helps, she is a restless, trashy angel.
Okay.
Yeah. So then they detail her home a bit more, which we get to visually see. And I don't remember. I think at some point we get some details about the home. But the Dexter Blasco building is a fine example of late postmodern decadent movement. In its time, it served as a hotel and a county hall of records before it was passed down to Julie from her grandmother.
Okay. So
So
clearly she comes from dynastic money is what
it
it's trying
is
to be.
what this is saying. Yeah. So
Yeah.
instead of it being just an apartment building, because I think when we first saw it, it was just like an apartment building.
They didn't mention kind of the history of it or the lineage or
Yeah.
anything like
And then we later learned in the comic series. So some of these details do come true. That she remodels the place, and I think we did learn that she owned the building.
Possibly. I don't remember that far back. Um, yeah, it really feels like he's like taken some of those really early details
Mhm.
that aren't quite fleshed out in those early issues and just creating this whole backstory, which is interesting for sure.
Yeah. So it
Like
goes
you said,
on.
it's like some of it can still work with what is eventually became the whole series, and
Mhm.
obviously some of it doesn't jive, right?
Yeah, and some of it, yeah, we never see. So then it goes on about the apartment. So she acquires it from her grandmother. Now it's nearly deserted on a bad part of town, and this old building serves as her headquarters as a freelance social
Social
worker.
worker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and as an occasional headquarters for the MAXX.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. Can you imagine? It's beautiful, and an apartment with a rounded off dome window like that would be amazing. But how much that would actually cost in real life?
Oh,
Like
oh,
it's
they have,
astronomical. That domed window, just to
yeah.
get it custom made, and then it's at an angle, so you got to make sure it's fastened properly, right? It's like, sorry, I'm getting into reality now, but I'm like, it's probably the reason we've never ever actually seen this on architecture. But that's what's cool about it too, because Sam Keith isn't afraid to push it and do these kind of, you know, if I showed this to someone who doesn't read comics or has never
Mhm.
really gone into Sam Keith's art, I think they'd be hard for us to tell me, well, that's clearly an apartment building. You know what I mean?
Oh
It's
yeah, no
so
way would
kind of
you get
crazy and
apartment building on that.
abstract and designed and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's so cool. I would love to see that,
Yeah, you could get some Eiffel Tower influence.
It's definitely more European influence,
Mhm.
100%. Yeah. To me, it feels a lot, we already mentioned the 1800s, like late 1800s kind of Spanish or a bit of French architecture mixed in there. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So I'm gonna my take on how could you construct this is you'd have to go track down a air balloon that they were done with, and then get the big circular window that they would put in the cabin portion.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, that's how you do it. You're like, oh, you decommissioning that giant air balloon? Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah.
purchase the window. Heck, maybe you would purchase the cab
Yeah.
portion of it and just put the cab portion on
On
the
top.
roof and build around it. Yeah.
Maybe that's what they
All
did
right.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's what they did.
Also, the image that it does for Julie's fashion in this is different than we never saw her really dressed like this in the comic book. I think it mostly just stuck to that, that one outfit look that we saw. I don't
Pretty much.
recall
Yeah.
seeing her.
Sometimes she's got a sweater. Sometimes the jeans aren't ripped quite as much, but
Yeah.
she's almost got her own kind of uniform. Yeah, because when I first saw this image when you flipped earlier on, I almost felt like maybe not what's in her hair and stuff, but she's
Mhm.
basically wearing what that first woman who gets attacked in issue one is wearing.
Oh, yeah,
Just,
yeah.
so I
Hmm.
don't know if there's a connection there, but that's what she's wearing here.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's a good point. So then it details a little bit about the Max with the home. Max generally sleeps on Julie's couch. We saw that after she bails him out of jail. Yep. Or while recovering from one of his many battles with evildoers. Every time he shambles in, bloody and torn, to her apartment, he is welcomed back by her friendly, if acid tongue. He also eats at least one meal a week with her and is quite fond of her steamed pecan cauliflower. Which, sure, maybe.
Yeah. Never heard about it in the book, but could
Nope.
still jive, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, there's that detail could totally exist. Oh yeah, another shot of the apartment. So flip side and a mosaic window, and oh, Julie's hair coasting across from one side to the other,
Oh,
and some
oh, so
sweet
yeah, they
fashion.
clearly, yeah.
Yeah, yep, those two maybe go together pretty well. Next time I'd put them side by side. Some Julie fashion.
Next time we review these cards again.
Yeah, assuming this video doesn't fail. Um, so then it gets into Julie in the Outback, and I do think we get some extra details there. Like the Max, Julie lives a second life in the primitive world of Pangea. And I think that goes a little further than what we really see from her. Because you remember there is in early issues where the Max actually takes Julie to the Outback and she's wandering him around with him, seeing this new place. That was with the Pit crossover.
Yeah, she's the real world version of Julie in the Outback, not the
Yes,
Jungle Queen version. Yeah.
correct. Yeah. Um, where she roams the grasslands as a lovely blonde goddess who is more feral than the primitive tribesmen, and we see no tribesmen at any point, or the is. Here she enjoys moments of beauty and power only dreamt of back in the city. So in this world, she's like the Max, a more powerful figure than she is in the real world. Although in the real world, the Max is still this hulking guy with claws. Maybe. However, she's still tormented by the ghost of a life she can't quite remember, which that's also is true because she's got all this trauma that she had pushed down. Throughout Pangea, Julie is known as the Queen of the Leopard Women or the Leopard Queen, though she's the only leopard woman. So she's known as the leader of a tribe effectively, but there's no tribe. She's the leader of nothing.
Okay.
She, yeah, she lives in a massive stone fertility symbol, which is filled with a variety of jungle plants. And and that we see, to an
Yeah,
extent.
I was gonna say, I know I usually go for the kind of genital humor and stuff. It's kind of my go-to. But once you flip these images over, I'm repeating that this is all new art to me that I've never seen. I was like, it's got to be on purpose, where that looks like hips and legs from a woman, and you know, some sort of visual interpretation of the vagina in the middle there. Makes sense if it's a fertility, um, what do you call it? Fertility monument? Fertility.
Fertility symbol.
Yeah. Am I
Yeah.
wrong there?
Oh, I mean, it could just, yeah.
Anytime I see shapes like that, like you can draw a mountain 3,000, 4,000, 10 million different ways, but you know,
Oh,
it's
sure.
still rocky and textured, but I do feel like that's intentional.
If you made it skin color, yeah, it would
I do
look
feel
like.
like it's a little lumpy, but it's definitely intentional.
Hmm. Yeah.
Maybe as we were talking about earlier, a bad Brazilian butt lift job.
As we were talking off camera, yes. Uh, okay, so though Julie remembers her trips to the Outback, so
Yeah.
this talks about it as if this is something she does regularly, which we didn't really see in the series so much. She believes them to be dreams or wish fulfillment. So while the Max goes back and forth and like recognizes it as like different worlds that he lives in, she just thinks this is her dreaming. So all her actions there are like a dream, even though this is alluding to it being like she's really there doing things.
Yeah,
Uh, she has no patience for the idea of multiple realities and considers herself a skeptic. We do see her be a skeptic.
for sure. Yeah.
She is, in fact, a soured romantic who can't admit it to anyone, especially the Max.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something where it's like that could be there.
Yeah. Later on, we'll learn that it's much more than that, I guess, is yeah, how I'd put it. Oh, real quick, yeah, just on this one, I want to mention
Yeah.
just artistically. I remember back in the day, people talking about Frank Frazetta's influence on
Mhm.
Sam Keith,
Yeah.
which I can see a little bit of that there here, just a little in the depiction
Mhm.
of the female form.
Yeah,
But I
leopard
always thought it
women
was
for sure.
a lot cartoonier than Frazetta. So I was always kind of
Yes.
like, eh. And I remember people mentioning it's kind of like a mix. They kind of saw Sam Keith as a mix between Frank Frazetta and Von Baudet, right?
Oh. Hmm.
And I didn't know who Von Baudet was back in the day. So I was kind of like, these people, I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But like this image, particularly now that I've discovered Von Baudet and I know what his art looks like,
Hmm.
I really kind of do see it, especially in this shot. It's kind of a cross between Von Baudet and Frank Frazetta. I kind of get that reference now.
Yeah, and then he had like the Arthur Sudan influence.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he said that he had influences from the Image guys. Like he drew the guys so bulking to be a little bit like Rob Liefeld, and he did all the stringy rips in the costumes because he saw Todd McFarlane doing it with Venom and also the webbing the way it
Yeah.
was. So kind of having these old school influences and then working in these influences of the guys right around him at the same time who were doing very well. So like, yeah, let me ape and crib a little bit of what they're doing since people like it so much.
It's so funny to me to hear that because at the same time, you know, the Max is such a different
Hmm.
out there kind of design as
Yeah.
opposed to, I associate much more kind of like, I don't know, cybernetic arms and pouches and shoulder pads and stuff like that, kind of the Image books, right?
Hmm.
Overall, like even Spawn, he doesn't have necessarily, well, he does have uh, pouches, at least for a while there. And he's got the chains and those kind of accoutrements. I always found that Sam Keith found a much more maybe original way to create a character that does feel current to the 90s, a little bit edgy and stuff, but just different enough that I never really kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? His look is not stereotypical at
Hmm.
all. It's just everything is different. The big feet, the middle finger claws, like it's I don't know. It's edgy, but it's just I guess original. I do find it much more original than what he seems to be implying by these influences that he used.
Yeah.
That's just me.
No, no. It's like some modern touches on these older influences.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Um, so, and I think it goes well with this image. To the Max, the Leopard Queen represents all goodness and purity. Yeah, well, they have a lot of there are conversations between Julie and the Max in the real world where he calls her out on some stuff. We particularly saw it in what was supposed to be Darker Image 2, but I think we also see those arguments in the Max #1 between them. But the Leopard Queen herself, the Max in the Outback, seeing her as all goodness and purity. makes a lot of sense, especially with how loyal he is to her. He feels a slave-like devotion towards her and constantly risks his life to save her, which we sort of get to see that.
Yeah, it definitely felt like there's a form of like he venerates her. You know what I mean? Like he idolizes her to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. She, on the other hand, responds to him with hatred and contempt and punishes him whenever he saves her. We don't exactly, we see her not be always nice to him, or like, I mean, she does like get him out of jail and then tell him like, hey, you know, I got stuff to do, you got to get on out of here. But no, she very much looks out for him and cares for him, even if she's not always completely sweet to him. But
Yeah,
yeah, so that's a detail we don't really, it doesn't gel. It's a complex relationship that neither fully understands, but still
just
they're
like all of us.
yeah, they're two uncommon individuals with remarkable spirits that find themselves bound together across dimensions by unfathomable forces. Again, a lot of flowery, suggestive language that doesn't really say anything.
Doesn't want to pin anything down. Yeah.
Yeah,
This illustration on the right, is that meant to be Julie as well?
I believe so. Yes, that's supposed to be
Okay.
Julie, and this
That could
is but
easily
this
be
is the
anyone else.
oh yeah, totally could be. But I think the purpose of the image on the right was the idealized. This is like how
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, as it was mentioning, like she's all purity and goodness, and so this is like, you know, just look at her, this lovely
He's an
girl
idol. Yeah,
laid
yeah,
out. Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
it's more his
She,
image of her rather than the actual.
funny how she's lying on a spool of industrial wire. I don't
Yeah,
know if that's meant to be some sort of tribal table, but to me, it kind of looks like that.
absolutely.
I
It
mean,
does look like one of those tables that made out of those old.
like in a tiki bar or something. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, but also an industrial spool full of wire.
yeah. Um,
Interesting.
so deep within the primeval jungle of the outback appears a sprawling figure. Okay, we won't have an image for this, but it was in the comic book. A doppelganger representing all that remains of the Leopard Queen after absorbing all the pain and madness that sought to destroy Julie Winters. This wraith of terror is a slight, mad figure pruning bits of doggerel and picking apart her favorite doll. So we did see that when after Julie took out Mr. Gone, and they have flashes of her, but is like very pale and much more
The
disheveled.
dark, the dark haired Julie or the
Mhm.
dark haired Jungle Queen. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was kind of like this dark gothic version of her almost.
yeah, very much. And then it gets to the leopard.
Sorry, Mr. Gone
Oh,
with those
yeah,
glasses.
I know. A bit of a different take. Yeah.
Well, not to make fun in any way of people who are blind, but
Uh,
I would have to assume with glasses like that Mr. Gone is blind.
well, the people that you see wear these, a lot of times elderly people wear glasses like this, but it's because their eyes have become so sensitive to the
Sensitive to
sun.
light. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Or if he's bringing in the Frank Miller Mutants influence,
It's such a funny design for glasses. It just
or the Mole Man. If you remember, Mole Man had those
yeah,
goggles that he wore, that
yeah.
completely covered his eyes. So we get a little bit on the leopard, the great leopard, Imrentig. Again, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
just a bunch of extra letters to make it sound different or foreign. Is always at the leopard queen's side, but the ferocious cat only appears in this world. It only appears in the outback. That
Okay.
we see, for it has no counterpart in the city. Mr. Gone suspects the feline is the living embodiment of Julie's anger.
Okay.
Is he right? Only time
That's
will
kind of
tell.
interesting. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Uh, the only thing I'll say about Sam Keith is this leopard, which he's drawn a few times in the series on this card stuff. I always wondered, why is he so fat? Like like he knows how to draw it clearly.
Well,
Right. Like it's
yeah.
always fat. It's just odd to me.
So if we go back an image, there's Julie on the table, and then there's the
Oh, I see what
leopard.
you're saying.
I
Yeah.
don't know. You know, if
I
it is
still
the
feel like the
embodiment of
leopard
her.
though, like Julie feels a little, she's got some love handles, she's a little pudgy. This guy feels like he's overeaten and he should just be kind
He's
of lying
eating
there in the sun. Yeah.
Hey, you want to go catch that kill? I'll
No
something
need.
later.
No need. he doesn't need to eat for another month, you know, like
This jungle cat gets up and was like, oh, eating good. Gonna go watch some TV. Taking a
yeah,
nap.
yeah. He's got a case of the itis.
So we do get some good details about Mr. Gone. So the slender and wily Mr. Gone is by far the Max's most dangerous foe, and the two have wrestled to a draw more than once. We really only see the once, but sure, could have gone on. Whether this has to do with the Max's lack of killer instinct or his comparative newness at the superhero game, only time will tell. The two men are polar opposites and in an odd way share both a rivalry and an obsession with Julie Winters. Okay, that's all pretty valid. Mr. Gone is a practitioner of the sorceress arts, but due to a deficiency in his studies, is terrible at magic. He cannot he cannot summon demons or fly. So whenever he attacks, he has to fall back on gunplay. His weapon of choice is an air Luger built in Munich in 1974 and engraved with scenes from the American West. So, yeah, I mean, those are extra details that could be, he did pull out, I guess that was a Luger. So
Yeah,
he's just adding some extra details to it.
I'm to believe that there are multiple engraved scenes of American history on the gun.
On the handle and the barrel, yeah, you could see.
Holy, that's.
So one of those landscape shots.
I guess, but that's some pretty fine detail to get on a handle there. That's pretty crazy.
Oh, well, yeah, play a little.
It's a comic, that's fine.
Yeah, play some Red Dead Redemption, buddy, and go get the engravings on your pistol and see how much detail they suggest you can get on there. Then it says for the rest, there is his charge card. So, like, if he can't, his magic sucks, but he's got a gun. So he's really fallen into some thuggery, even though he studied magic.
Just a petty criminal.
Get it done, put it on your charge card and buy what you need in order to.
He's just a petty criminal with a gun. He's just a regular old criminal, really, wearing a cape. So you assume he's a little crazy.
Who spent the time to study magic? After a decade of mystical practice and personal deprivation, Mr. Gone has developed the power to make his hand glow faintly in the dark. That's how far he's gotten. He was hoping for a death touch or the ability to make flaming balls of Greek fire. But he can just make his hand glow. But it's helpful because it'll illuminate his leering grin, which is often the last thing his victims see. And that is something for which he is very proud. So the best he's learned to do is make his hand glow, and that does make him intimidating in the dark. Which, to be fair, if you were a lone woman in an alleyway and a guy came at you with a glowing hand and you saw this weird evil grin, yeah, it's... Or if you're a dude, that'd still be creepy. If you're a dude, if you're anybody alone by yourself in an alleyway and somebody just comes out and like...
But it's to me, it's like, what's coming to mind too is like, I was going to say earlier on, I've always thought that obviously the cape on Mr. Gone is somewhat inspired by Spawn, just by the sheer size of it, even though the depiction of it in the drawing, kind of in the visual, it's a little bit different, the textures and stuff. But, to me, scary guy with a glowy hand in a dark alleyway, that's Spawn. Like, how many shots of Spawn do we have with the green light coming out of his hand? So it's kind of an odd.
Cape did flow alive in issue.
And that too, like in issue 1 and 2, it's like early on with Mr. Gone, his cape does seem to move on its own, like you said. So there's a lot of elements there. If I were Messner Loebs, I'd be trying to move away from kind of referring to Spawn kind of tropes more so.
Now, also, if you think about Spawn, the early issues don't really do that. While the cape is very expansive and is spread out quite a bit, it actually moving and doing things comes a bit later.
That's true. Yeah. That comes later. Yeah.
Yeah. So there were some quotes thrown on there. This from Mr. Gone. Hey, I like my work. I try to be friendly. What's the point of being a gloomy puss kind of murderer? You just bring people down. As if he's like, yeah, I murder people, but like...
As opposed to murdering people, not bringing people down? Like,
yeah, listen, I mean, I like what I do. I'm not depressed about being a murderer. Like, I'm having fun here. Yeah.
Not trying to bring people down by killing them.
Listen, I'm gonna murder you, but I'm gonna smile and be happy about it. I don't want you to think I'm having a bad day here.
That's an odd bit of plot point.
Yeah.
Um, my question: what's the deal in this image specifically with the glasses? Does he ever wear them in the series?
No. So why depicted with glasses? I don't know, because there's I think another one coming up with glasses.
Because I really like Mr. Gone's look from the comic. You
Yeah.
know, just his face with the when he's kind of evil looking with the eyebrows and stuff. And this just kind of messes it up a bit and just throws me off. I can accept the design before, but with the glasses, it just feels a little ridiculous.
Oh, a little
As
bit.
you know, ridiculous as comics can get, I guess.
Yeah. Uh, oh yeah, Mr. Gone with
Another
a
one.
gun.
Yeah.
Yep, with the gun. So additionally, you'll like this. Additionally, his cape is woven from the cocoons of drugged silkworms and soaked in the secretion of certain trees, just certain,
Certain.
and is in fact semi-sentient. It
Of
seeks
course.
out warmth and electrical energy and can only sleep in a cedar box fitted without nails. All just made up details. So the cloak is like a Dracula. It's got to go sleep in a coffin effectively.
Yeah. And right here, it's funny though, the depiction of Mr. Gone, I'd almost go with, you know, if I didn't know any better, I'd be like, it's more of a trench coat right now in this illustration than a cape,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yes.
It's got more, I would assume it's a trench coat before it's a cape. Maybe these are really early on designs of Mr. Gone or something, and he got rid of the glasses eventually. Because it feels like even the pair of glasses here are not the same as the other ones. So is he like trying, like, I'd like him to wear glasses. Okay, these ones didn't work. Let's try this. And then eventually he's just like, ah, forget the glasses. I
Yeah.
feel like we're seeing like the process of Mr. Gone's design kind of,
Yeah. Was he gonna
because
was
he
he
does feel somewhat different in the design here.
Oh, absolutely. So was he gonna add glasses later, or did he pull out some old drawings and kind of fix them up for the trading cards?
Like I said, with these drawings, I'm almost going with like maybe these were designs for Mr. Gone, the first few that he did in the sketchbook, went with a slightly different design for the book eventually when he drew it. And then for the card set was like, well, you know, I need all this art for the card set. Boom, I'll take these sketches, ink them real quick, and let's,
Mhm.
you know, throw it out there.
Yeah.
Possibly. I don't know. But
But the
it just,
drawing
the
on the
design feels
left,
very different.
the abode again, that's giving us a shot like just like that city shot was really great, and the apartment building with the curved mirror, and one of them shows Julie and the other shows the Max, also great. So the bull rubber factory here. um
This one to me almost feels like where the other stuff we saw of the city kind of evokes. I talked about Europe, but you know, New York or that kind of
mhm,
idea. This one to me almost evokes LA a little bit more, like
mm,
the art deco
mhm.
kind of architecture and the Hollywood Hills with some palm trees on the left,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, the palm tree is gonna give it that
right? It's going to give
for
you that
sure.
West Coast vibe for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mr. Gone dwells in the deserted bulldog rubber factory on the faded pastel art deca side of town.
Okay. That was pretty
Yeah,
close there.
a lot of flowery language again. Most of the buildings were dated back in 1920 and are connected by a network of tunnels used originally by smugglers and bootleggers, all of which could be true. And it would also help for a villain that like kind of slips in out of nowhere and then disappears if there were tunnels.
Yeah.
This would be justifying his ability to get around. Uh, one floor of the factory was given over to a bankrupt theatrical supply house, so a costume warehouse, effectively, which is fun because I was just doing a play. So there is like a floor of just outfits and garments and pieces, and a basement of set pieces, so that you could build different theatrical works, which is kind of interesting to see. You make a story and then like, well, here's what we've got, what fits, what
How
can you
can we
use?
adapt this to our needs? Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, there's a lot of that. It's kind of fun. Anyway, back to this thing. One floor factory given over to a bankrupt theatrical supply house. Thus, Mr. Gone always has plenty of costumes with which to outfit the army of Is.
Oh yeah, that's right. He used to, because if you dress them up as humans, other people will see them as humans. I
Yeah, you
remember that.
see them as what they're dressed as. Yeah.
Exactly.
Uh, so he harvests the Is from the outback and trains them to serve as his assassins in the city. We don't exactly see the assassin thing, but they are, you have to be careful around them. The Is seem to enjoy their strange new roles, as by nature they are both friendly and lethal, and thus well suited for impersonating humans. Then it goes back onto the building itself. Deep within the lair lies his cow bathroom, which we did see, where he feels most centered and human. So as if Mr. Gone has a place to relax within the real world, away from his own evil. Most likely to reflect upon the strange turns his life has taken, and in a darkened annex just off of the cow bathroom, Mr. Gone built a velvet and steel platform where he binds his victims and dresses them in psychologically unhealthy costumes most are never seen again. We saw that in the comic book.
Creepy cosplay. Yeah.
Yeah, he captured Julie, put her in the costume and
the bunny suit. Yeah.
Yeah, and then was in his bathroom like getting ready to go
lathering up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Except that she found a sharp object and dealt with him.
Yeah, it really feels like a lot of this is extrapolated from just those very, very early issues.
Yeah, and then expanding with a lot of extra words, but then also throwing in some things that like this could be the case, it might not be the case. It's underlying. It could be there without you ever having to really know more about it.
And it's okay to come up with concepts for the future and eventually use some of them and not others, just for convenience along the way. What issue did Messner Loeb's, like, what was his last issue on the MAXX?
So he finished at issue 20, which was the original arc where they sort of resolved Julie's issue, but not really.
Yeah.
And then
Alan close to,
yeah, they kind of give it an ending, but they don't really finish off. Then Alan Moore comes in and writes issue 21, where he does what he did on a bunch of other comics and sort of take what's there and flip it on its head, like, oh, you know these details, but actually they mean this thing.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of like he brought him in like a replacement writer. I'm not sure if he was supposed to launch a new direction or just help him out a little bit at first, why he went away from Messner Loeb's if you want the co-writer. But yeah, he had him in for that one issue, then has Messner Loeb's back for issue 22. And then when he goes to issue 23, Sam's writing on his own, but that's when he brought in the material from Darker Image 2. So Messner Loeb's is still on the issue, but it's old stuff that he wrote.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
And then issue 24 is when Sam is completely off on his own. So yeah, I don't know
where it really kind of
I don't know if he was going to transition to Alan Moore as a new writer or if he just wanted him as a one-off, like Todd had him come in as a one-off. Don't know.
Yeah, it seems like, listen, maybe you bring him in for that one issue. Alan Moore, like you said, turns a bunch of things on their head, and that kind of gives you a bunch of new ideas to continue on after that. Maybe he's like, kind of running out of ideas after the, like you said, the conclusion, if you will, of that first kind of big arc. And by bringing in Alan Moore, he just throws out a bunch of crazy concepts. And you're like, great, I can move on with my next 11 odd issues or something.
Yeah, could be very much. And he came out with Mr. Gone, making it where Mr. Gone's like, oh my gosh, that's how you saw me? That must be something going on with you, because that's not me.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's where it's that's where it kind of flips, right?
Yeah, don't give me that. We saw 20 issues of you working behind the scenes and manipulating people and trying to push them. Don't pretend like we just mistook your actions, or this is just how we see you because of our own damage, but you're actually none of those things. No, you were a manipulator and trying to hurt people. You're a man, that Mr. Gone's a real gaslighter.
Yeah. That term wasn't being used back then so much, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously one of the card art was done of like, here's a woman who maybe is another victim that he grabbed and took away. And also this very shadowy shot, which is nice. That's a great comic.
That's cool.
Yeah. You can use a little bit of detail, but it feel more impactful because you blacked out a lot of other stuff.
It's the design is just simple and perfect. I could almost confuse him for Edward Norton's character in American History X. Is that the name of the movie?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. He still looks quite a bit older and his face is longer, but I totally get where you're at with it.
I get that vibe from it.
Yeah.
But, And again, the funny shades on Mr. Gone on the left there is I'm glad it was at some point decided that yeah, he's not gonna be wearing glasses.
Well, yeah, can you imagine him coming into scenes as a villain with the shades on, and then the army of Is, like with a bunch of Ises with him as his
It
like
just
gang
feels
members, but
really off.
they're all in different outfits. So then like the
Or they
Max sees Ises in the outfits, but then the other people in the room just see this collection of people behind him. Like,
yeah,
oh, he brought somebody's grandma and he's got the paper boy, and there's that dude who delivers pizzas, and that's like his
some
gang
weird
squad.
guy. Yeah. Some weird guy in a cave just brought his whole extended family with him. Yeah.
Mhm.
And they're emanating from under his cape.
And then they started wrecking the place for some reason. I don't know what caused it, but all
I
these
think they're all
people
on
just
they're
started.
all on crystal meth.
Yeah.
There's some hillbilly family from
And
yeah.
there's this giant homeless guy who was just laying them out. Don't know what's up with that guy. Yeah. A lot of fun could have been had there. Okay, so this thing goes into Mr. Gone's philosophy, which I don't think I talked to you about it a little bit. I don't think we see this in the comic book even as it goes on, but like the Max, Mr. Gone moves between the city and the world of the Outback. But Mr. Gone believes the Outback to be the true reality.
Okay.
And the city is merely a creation in Julie Winter's deranged mind, which makes all who venture there worse by fulfilling their darkest fantasies. So this is suggesting that like people go into Julie's mind, and then while they're there, her problems are corrupting other people and making them worse. That's putting a lot on Julie. uh,
Sounds like some what do you call that? Blaming the victim.
yeah, a little victim blame. Yeah. Uh, so then getting back to him, as such, life and death in the city are the same to Mr. Gone because he believes he's merely living in one of her delusions. Because the city, again, is just a world in her mind. It's not the real place. Thus,
Or
he's
does
not
that
responsible for
justify?
his actions either.
I was going to say it's like he's trying to justify. Well, it's not a real place; it's a dream world. So in that place, I can do dastardly evil things, and it doesn't matter, right? Because I'm not compromising my morality.
But not only does it not matter, but I'm being influenced and turned bad by all of her deranged ideas and thoughts. Like I get there and now her negative stuff
Yeah.
is pushing on me and making me do these things
Well, that almost comes back to what Alan Moore did in a weird way,
in a weird way. Yeah.
right? Where like,
Yeah.
oh, you guys thought I was this evil person, but I'm not, because maybe it was Julie's influence that was making me evil.
Mm. Wait, you're saying I actually killed people? No, 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 no. I live in this place called the Outback, and then I've been having dreams about killing people. You're saying that's real? That's his perspective.
Crazy. So in a weird way, it's almost like the Max in reverse to a certain extent. I'm not talking about killing people, but like almost like he the Max still somewhat realizes that there is the real world and he's dreaming the Outback, but
Yeah,
maybe not. It's almost like Mr. Gone says, no, the Outback I know
yeah,
for sure exists, but I'm dreaming the real world, the
yeah.
city,
The
and
city.
maybe it exists, but
Yeah.
it's a dream,
No, the
right?
city's make believe. Yeah, yeah,
That's kind of interesting. I
yeah.
like that.
Another quote from Mr. Gone: "I do evil. If you make things bad enough, eventually somebody has to step forward to make them right. Thus, I provoke good into being." Can you think of a more moral person? I could reform, but hey, the world needs me. You need me to do
Yeah,
bad
that's the
things.
most convoluted thought
Yeah.
process. It's
Listen,
like,
I do
oh
bad
my
things,
God.
which inspires other people to do good things. So you
Yeah.
need me out here doing bad things.
It's like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I'm gonna bring you to the brink of death and torture you so you can become stronger.
Yeah. Well, that's like I mean I've seen a speech similar to this of like there was a football show or something where the guy's dad shows up after he's made it and he's like, "No, I hate you. You abandoned me." Like, no, no, no. See, by me leaving you like that, it put all that anger in you, which you then applied to football. So if I had stuck around, you'd never have become what you did. You needed me to leave.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
or it's
It's
like,
the concept of negative reinforcement, but really brought to a
yeah,
high degree. Because
uh,
I respond to some negative reinforcement to a certain extent, but
uh,
not to the mentally um, traumatizing type.
no,
Obviously,
yeah, no, I think that most people want to respond to positive things, but occasionally, if you getting maybe you get lazy or you kind of lost track or you've gotten off path, and then you need a little bit of a like somebody
like
doing it to you
yeah, like
to
a
wake you up.
normal amount of it. I'm not saying, like I said, a high degree, but it's like
Yeah,
something that kind of stirs things up in you, like, oh yeah, I'll show you, that kind of attitude, without it being necessarily too violent or anything,
sure.
victim like.
I mean, almost everybody can benefit occasionally from someone being like, "No, I'm just helping you get your head out of your ass. Like you got
Yeah,
too far off.
absolutely. Yeah,
You're right. I need a little course correction. Now we're going to go back to the healthy relationship where we work simpatico and you're complimentary." Um, so it goes. So after Mr. Gawn describes the like, I do evil, but that's because it makes good. But who can trust the mind games of a serial killer? So it does suggest that Mr. Gawn yes, he is out there doing legitimately bad things. In his view, he is a morbid philanthropist, and who can say he's wrong? So yes, he is, by giving this evil to the world, he's actually helping you. You're welcome.
yeah. Wow.
Another quote: "Every time I perform an evil act, it brings us one step closer to awakening the dreamers and merging the two universes." Okay, but also if he believes that the city is not a real place, then what are you merging?
Why would you even merge with? Yeah,
Yeah,
with,
that doesn't make any sense. Thus, evil becomes good and good becomes evil. Evil is the poetry of the universe, the dark star that draws all light unto itself and thus binds the galaxy together. Besides, it's a kick. So, I mean, that does fit. If he was in the comic book and you could see this villain walking, he's walking through the pages and he's spouting, he's talking all this evil poetic nonsense where he's putting a spin on it that sounds cool, and then after he's like, "Oh yeah, because I'm a real philosopher," you really got to think deep about what I'm saying. Plus, doing bad stuff is fun.
yeah. I think we're getting more honesty from him in that latter comment than everything he's kind of mentioning about his
Yeah,
philosophy. And that just
it,
sounds like a lot of bullshit.
and it would have been kind of fun to see this villain who spouts a bunch of stuff and acts like it's meaningful, and then yeah. Plus, I also, I like
Yeah,
being
and that was
up.
I do feel like very early on in the series, even though we didn't get so much detail, that was kind of the vibe of Mr. Gone, at least in kind of that first initial appearance.
Yeah, yeah, I did. So this could have been there and wasn't. Uh, the villainous Mr. Gone would likely end up destroying Julie and the city were he not opposed by the hulking and confused hero, the Max. But while both men are of two worlds and somewhat out of control and confused as to their ultimate destiny, they are in reality very different. Well, yeah, obviously. For while the seamy sorcerer switches between dimensions to indulge his worst impulses, the Max, though racked with despair, never accepts the brutality and injustice of his world. He fights for the weak, the helpless, against fascist swine who are drunk with power and bloodlust, for he is a hero.
None of that really in the series.
Right. We
It's a
don't see
nice, it's a nice thought, but yeah,
yeah, we see a guy who's troubled, but we don't see a city actively working against him like
yeah.
what this
It's just so funny because, like, obviously Mr. Loebs is going with a more kind of traditional storytelling kind of viewpoint, and I get it. But it's like, this dichotomy between, again, what we thought we were going to expect from the series. The Max is possibly some crazy deranged guy who thinks he's a hero in the outback, but yes, ultimately, you know, like He-Man or something,
Mhm.
there is that other world and he is a hero and destiny fulfilled, end of the movie, roll credits, right? Where it's like that's kind of where it starts off with, and then you learn that yeah, no, he's not a hero, and he's really is just a mentally troubled, deranged, homeless guy. Like that's
Mhm.
ultimately, you know, it's just there's no real hero's journey in the actual Max series, right? There just isn't.
Yeah, because him battling criminals falls off real quick.
Doesn't last but a few issues, right?
Yeah, it just like establishes the idea and then moves on to the other thinking. Which got kind of they do that in a fun way in the Teen Titans Go cartoon, where like they fight crime, but that's rarely what the episode is about. It's always about just
Well,
them
of course, yeah.
looking around in between adventures, all this
Which is
silliness.
the interesting part. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's fun back home part. Uh,
It because like I was those are sometimes the scenes you never get in the comics that maybe some comics should be focusing on. You're talking about, you know, Teen Titans. Um, I was watching a review of Neil Adams' Batman,
mhm.
the storyline with Ra's al Ghul and Talia and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And this was a CK review, and Jeff Darrow was the guest, and he was talking about it, and he talked about how, you know, back in the day, it was revolutionary to see Batman without his costume on, but still his mask. And
Mhm.
he's like,
Mm.
that's where I first realized that Batman had chest hair. And he's like,
Oh,
back then, seeing that, he's like, it was off, but he's like, it's almost sexual, you know? And then he's kissing Talia. And I was like, it's almost like the first time I considered, hey, maybe Batman has sex every once in a while, you know? And I mean, that's been played with here and there
yeah.
later on with Catwoman and stuff. But you know, just for laughs, wouldn't it be fun to see a miniseries where it's just all of Batman's trysts? You know, after a particularly hard mission, you know, he comes back to Gotham and he's just like, you know, five girls in the room and cocaine and stuff, and just you know, he has to let loose every once in a while. You know,
I would imagine a guy who's working out constantly and in incredible shape and lives a very stressful and crazy life is
yeah,
probably
he's gonna
doing,
need some release. You know, like
yeah. And would
I,
also, just by his presence, would draw so many women to him. He couldn't dodge them all.
when he's Bruce Wayne, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it is like even if he's walking around trying to act like a nice guy, some of that dark side's gonna come through. He's got money. He's handsome. You couldn't avoid all of the.
I can't. I could never buy because you, like I said, very rarely see it in the comics. It's been addressed later on in more modern storylines or whatever. But you know, the classic kind of Batman, you never really consider his sexuality, and I could just never buy it. I was always like, wow, come on, you know, at a certain point, he's gonna need to bang. You know, let's be honest.
Yeah, Robin, why don't you do the paperwork on this one? I gotta go have a conversation with Catwoman just over here,
Yeah,
behind the dumpster. So if you could just hop in the Batmobile and yeah, turn some music on while you're at it. Just gonna
come pick us up in an hour.
Yeah, I just gotta work something out real quick.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss
Yeah, finer points of the criminalism and the penal system.
latex fetish costumes.
Yeah.
All right,
Uh,
back to the max.
yeah, back to the Max. So it's got some final stuff on the Max. Creator or victim? Just getting on to Julie. Does Julie Winters control the universe of the city and the Outback? Is her mind permanently damaged by the attack she suffered on campus and the subsequent attacks by Mr. Gone? Some of that's true of the series. Or is all this part of the healing process that will return her to full health? This is what the Max must quickly find out.
Okay.
Yeah. Then it got into denizens of the Outback, which, we saw a few of these, and there were a couple of them that were talked about. And issue 3 opens on like that little opening page with the Crabbit and the slug, and obviously we
Yeah,
see,
they're going up the food chain. Yeah.
yeah, we see the is, and in issues, I think it's in issue 8, there's quite a bit more detailing of stuff from the outback while he's talking to the kids. Uh,
They're
so
all mostly animals and creatures, right?
yeah,
Like that's yeah.
so we get into denizens. This image fits perfectly. The seed bringers. They plant seeds that grow into is. So is are plants, kind of, sort of.
Okay.
They plant seeds that grow into is the basis of Pangea's ecosystem. For centuries, the seed bringers, the seed bringer mask, which you know is very much like the mask, has been passed down from parent to child. Why then does the mask wear one? Yeah, and that's the end about.
Never ever been explained. I mean, I thought it was interesting again when you flipped onto this page here,
Mhm.
seeing a character other than creatures and animals like I talked about
Yeah,
from the not the outworld, the outback. Um, but yeah, never appeared in the series. And again, creating kind of a, however tenuous connection directly with the Max with the form
yeah.
of the mask being very similar. So, are they some sort of rabbit tribe or something? I don't know. It's an interesting design. I mean, I've never seen this and it's fun. It's definitely fun to see.
Yeah, so we did see these guys in the background in issue 8, I think it was.
Yeah,
The Mwitabe, maybe,
sure.
or
I'll
mountains,
trust you on that.
yeah, or mountains that walk, are huge proto-humans that serve as slaves to the seed bringers. They guard the is fields and keep crabbits and fester moles from dining on the unripened is flesh.
Okay.
Slow of thought and quick to anger, Mwitabe have great personal loyalty and never betray their duty. They know only one song.
And how do they sing it with no mouth?
Yeah, he didn't say they sing it. They just know only one song. Maybe they hum. Maybe they're
Yeah, that would make maybe that's some sort of a acoustic resonant thing.
yeah. Maybe the one song is
Oh yeah, that's right. Crash Test Dummies. Um, yeah, I mean another fun, interesting design from Sam Keith, always off the beaten path, right? Working in those tribal elements
Yeah.
of the outback,
And
right? Very
yep.
similar, kind of connecting the characters aesthetically to a certain extent. And yeah, just Sam Keith every once in a while just pulling out an odd design of a character
Yeah.
who to me almost looks like he's got like kind of a Popeye-ish lower chin jaw area and then just
Uh,
no mouth. No
yeah.
mouth. Very weird.
And gave him bat wing ears.
Yeah, who knows?
Yep.
But it's
Uh,
cool. I like it.
then they get into the is. So there's a lot of stuff for the is. Is much like a young kangaroo living in its mother's pouch, long after it is physically mature, will unsprouted dwell underground. So they grow from seeds and then just live underground for a while, waiting. They live underground waiting. Woe betides the unwary traveler who draws too near, for he is pulled under the sod and eaten. Only the Max has ever escaped these tiny fiends. So we did see, like when the Max went to the outback, like the hands of the is reach out and grab and pull him down. But this is suggesting it's like a hunting practice where they just exist under the ground and like you're over here, you're fine, but you choose to walk over here and like, oh no, and they just pull you down and eat you. Again,
Interesting.
could be the case. It's like working off of the visual details and creating an additional story behind those details to give more meaning. Although cute and in some ways lovable, is our enemies to every living thing. They grow underground from spores before burrowing to the surface to begin a horrific migration. This will work off this image here. Twice a year on each solace, the is gather in huge roving parties and head due west, feasting on grass, crabbits, mountain giants, and everything else in their path before they reach the teeth of the Churl Cliffs, where they hurl themselves into the sea. The carnivores of the outback wait greedily for the day and feast for weeks on the sweet is flesh. So it gives them a lemmings vibe, except that while they make their lemming trek to the cliffside and toss themselves off, they eat everything in their path. So when they're making their trek, you better get out of the way because they just consume everything.
Just came to mind now. I feel like maybe there's a Critters influence on the is in this.
Oh.
Like it's like Messner Loeb saw that movie
Oh.
and applied some of the, the ideas of Critters to the is. I mean, it would make a lot of sense to go there too, as there's a lot of them and they have these big teeth and they're, you know, don't have any eyes, any nose, so their mouth seems to be what they use the most. So it makes sense that they eat stuff, right, or eat everything in their path. I feel like maybe this is a cheeky design from Sam Keith because he's like, if I have to draw an army of evil characters or villains, quote unquote, as maybe see them as the army of Mr. Gone or something like that. He came up with a really simple design that's fun to draw and fairly easy and quick as well. I mean, it's probably even it probably takes less time to draw an is than a Rob Liefeld soldier and or robot.
Well, and also he grabbed them from Critters, the comic book that he did. And you remember we looked at the cover where it's got the is on the cover, but with the different color.
Oh, that was actually called Critters.
Yeah, it's called Critters.
Oh.
Yeah. And he was doing short stories of them, and they would do little kind of silly slapsticky stuff.
Okay, interesting.
So, yeah.
Well, I remembered he had done prior stuff. It's just with the characters, just I'd never read those. So.
Okay, yeah, I was showing that to you last time. Anyways, twice a year, yeah, they do the solstice. So yeah, they trek across, they eat everything in their path, and throw themselves in the ocean, die, and then all the creatures that are alive are like, okay, cool, free meal. When is are dragged across the barrier that separates the outback and the city, they transform into distorted, homicidal shapeshifters capable of infinite cruelty. Which they're white within the outback, but then when they come to the city, they're black.
They're black.
Yeah. Yes, we saw that. These dark is can take the form of anyone they dress up as, a postman, a grandmother, or even your girlfriend. And only the MAXX and Mr. Gone see them as they really are. In fact, given their gift for malicious mischief, the is may be the prototype for all legends of fairies, goblins, gremlins, and other familiar. And I thought that was a cool concept. That could very much be the case.
Yeah, they just never really brought that into the series that I remember, right? It was never.
Yeah, it was never spoken about. Yeah, but it was a fun thing that William Messner Loeb's added. Fighting the is very dangerous and requires great strength and cunning. Imagine battling a large, angry, solid rubber soccer ball stuffed with razor teeth and stringy, sticky arms and legs.
Oh, I almost kind of see it in the depiction of the is on the left there. Remember those things we used to buy as kids? Those like sticky rubber hands
yeah.
you would like throw and pick stuff up off the table.
Yep, with the little hands too.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, they had hands at the end of it.
Yeah. Only the fact that they turn into protoplasm if dropped on the soft spot on their heads makes them at all vulnerable. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. And who knows where the soft spot is?
Soft spot on their head. Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah. The only other way to subdue a dark is killing frenzy is by an application of butterscotch. So just throwing in a weird detail that we never saw in the comic book.
Yeah.
Yep, never saw. Oh yeah, the picture of them dragging. Now this is not the picture from the comic book of them dragging him down, just a different picture of them dragging him down. And yeah, cute head scratching is what I do. Yeah, he did a lot of extra drawings of the is to fill out the card series, which is a good.
It's I was about to say it's clever, man. These are deadline shots for sure. Not that they're bad or anything; they're great, but it's like draw a quick, easy. I go back to this idea that it's such an easy design to draw quick and draw a lot of. He's showing that here, and there aren't even any backgrounds on these. So yeah.
Yeah, if you were a lot of those Marvel cards, for instance, if you blew them up, like they'd be fun to have on your wall, and like,
Yeah.
yeah, these look perfectly fine at this size, but for a
Any
trading card,
bigger.
it's not,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't want to blow it up, yeah, and put it on the wall. It's just,
This is definitely near the end of his deadline for this card set. He's like, oh man, you need 3 or 4 more cards. And he's like, oh, so sick of drawing Julie and the Max. All right, just a bunch of ises, man. Here we go.
yeah.
I got to get this done before noon.
Yeah, and if they were doing what we're hearing about in the cards, like if they were in costumes and infiltrating, or they were standing behind Mr. Gone, you could really
Even
do a lot.
just some backgrounds, but
Yeah,
this is just, and the prior illustration of the Max being pulled down, I would say, is probably near the end of his
yeah,
completion of these cards here. Because I mean, it's not a bad image. It's composition, but you can tell he dashed that one out pretty quickly.
yeah. It's definitely much simpler. And wondering if we.
I gotta say, I on the is shots on the left there, and on the
Mm,
next page, if you can go back. I don't know that in the comic I ever nope, sorry to forward that one there on the top left.
yeah.
Did we ever get such a clear depiction of the white is in the comic? Because I'm sorry to say, it does feel a little penile. One now that I'm getting to see his
Oh,
full.
yeah. You got Army of Is and other issues, and I don't remember them looking.
Speaking specifically of the white is, the
Yeah,
black
because
is
it's
clearly,
putting his legs together in an odd way.
yeah. So, and just the way the body is drawn,
Well, also there's some chin hair on him, which you don't see in anything else.
it just starts looking like a dick,
Yeah,
like a dick with arms. And where when he's doing the black is he clearly goes for a more kind of
yeah,
angular kind of look, and I don't get any of the vibe there. So
yeah.
just odd
Changes it
and
up a bit.
funny. It's kind of fun.
So I was looking to see if, because this is the scene from issue number 1
Yeah.
where it's getting drawn down by the is, and none of these are exactly the image that we get. So it is an additional drawing, but it's very close to stuff he already did.
Could it also be maybe his first go at the sketch for the comic,
Maybe, yeah,
do
could have been a
something else, and then he's
leftover.
like, oh, I can reuse the sketch for the cards, right?
Sure.
Which I wouldn't fault him for doing that.
Yeah. No, makes perfect sense. So then we get into, and we did get to see these, the Mitre Ba, or those who eat wood, or the dragon snouts, are another species of proto-human roaming the plains of Pangea. Unlike
Yeah.
the Imwitabe, the Dimitri Ba have an evolved series of family relationships based on tattooing and are highly literate.
Okay.
I don't know how you tattoo your family relationships. I guess when you're born, they throw you a tattoo that lets you know which group you belong to. Like, you just
Right.
like, am I with? No, that's different. Excuse me. It's very, yeah. They sing the history of their people in a series of vivid folk ethics called the Al Kad Miapur. Sure. Which celebrates grass and ritual cannibalism.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. All
Always
right.
love their designs as well. Very cool. There you almost, I mean, this was in darker image that we got most of this got, at least
Yeah,
one of them.
we saw them in that.
Um,
Yeah, and we see them
they're
later in the series where they're chasing the Max
yes,
again
yeah,
through
you're
the
right.
outback.
They're always very low to the ground. You can imagine their legs are pretty short and
Yeah,
stout, which is
right.
interesting and fun. Like there's again just a weird, different, out of left field kind of design from Sam Keith, which is really fun and cool. And you mentioned Arthur Soydam before.
Sudan, I think.
You can see a lot of the influence in these types of characters. Yeah.
Yeah, very much. And then so this one we definitely get. The die cat is one of
Yeah.
the most dangerous animals in Pangea. It appears to be a leopard, but is actually a mutated plant, and thus has no bone
Remember
or
that.
muscle
Yeah.
structure. Instead, it is composed entirely of rubbery cartilage. Although now you're back to animal.
Yeah.
I don't, unless plants have cartilage, not that I'm aware of.
Well, listen, rubber does come from a tree, so
Okay. Since it feels no pain and cannot be cut or pierced, it can only be destroyed by being turned inside out and exposed to seawater. A most dangerous opponent indeed.
Wow. So as long as it stays away from seawater, it's fine.
And doesn't get turned inside out.
But can it get turned inside out and then, if not exposed to seawater, still survive?
Yeah.
Or just flip back?
We just see it from that one battle, and I think this is issue 8 again.
Yeah.
And then there's later in the series, well, at least in the TV series, when they go to showing him as a gardener in the garden, like one of the plants looks like a die cat.
Okay.
Yeah.
This image almost makes me feel like kind of what I mentioned previously. Maybe this was, a panel layout for that issue that this creature appears in, and he just went with another one that he did and then recycled this image later.
Sure, because it's very simple.
I feel like it's got a bit of a Calvin and Hobbes vibe to it, right? When Calvin and Hobbes are going at each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I can almost feel like, not that he swiped it, but that the inspiration came from that.
Yeah, if there had been a fun little comic series of like little side strips of just like at every end of every MAXX issue, there was just a strip of the MAXX and the Dicant, and it, jumping out at him at different places and tackling him. Could have totally been done.
Looking at this, I feel like Sam Keith could do a reasonably interesting version of Calvin and Hobbes. You know what I mean? Yes. I think he'd be well suited to it.
Yeah, 100%. So the great northern crabbit, yes, we got that one. Has only one natural predator. We did see all this. The which hunt it down and tease and humiliate it unmercifully before eating it. The crabbit itself lives off of shellless snails and then destroys itself by especially vigorous leaping. They are known. What is that? There has been a good deal of unwholesome speculation over the origin of the crabbit. Okay, sure, but nothing has ever been proven.
All right. The text box there.
Oh, I think was it the crabbit who could both leap and land? I think it was
he doesn't know how to land. He can't land.
The snail could leap but couldn't land.
Okay. Yeah.
The crabbit could leap and land, but then it gets eaten by
a bigger creature. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like these bits here almost kind of are just, we almost got most of this in the series in that sequence where they introduced these creatures, right? Kind of like we talked about, like the food chain. I feel like we got most of these details in that sequence. There's kind of retreading a little bit here.
Yeah. And then our last one here, the Mad Prophets. They wander the outback, especially when the hot, dry, dolorous winds blow and all the world seems old. In more feathery language. They teach that there is another world just to the other side of this one, where men live in cities and vegetables aren't carnivorous.
What is he talking about?
Yeah, they talk about the other world, which is the world.
Non-carnivorous plants? What are you talking about? That's crazy talk.
And and the prophets don't appear in the series either. I don't think there's a single spot where they appear as in an image.
The first and only time I've ever heard of them.
And it is dealing with some is.
Clearly has an is infestation.
So yeah, that was the wonders of the card series. And there were, as we said before, there was a good 90 cards. And
do you have the whole set?
Yeah. And like I said, I think 48 of it. So that was, that you saw that image before. That was that one, the MAXX. So kind of a very simplified version of the MAXX image that we saw in numerous places.
That we've seen everywhere. Yeah. Do you have the foil etched cards? I think they're called. I'm not 100% sure on that.
No. Okay. I cheaply bought the actual series. I think I paid $30 to get my hands on a set of the series.
So the whole set minus the etched cards. I guess.
Yeah. Those can be pricey, and I was not going to put the money.
No,
I was interested enough to get these, to read the histories. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh shoot! They front load a lot of the original art. Wow. Yeah, I'm getting 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. Oh, yeah, they are just front loading this original art. I'm at 25, 26. Still front load. Man, really just kicked all the original art into the front half of the series. Which is kind of
Well,
good.
that's 'cause people were really ultimately what you want is new art, right? Like,
Yeah. Okay, yeah, get to the back half of the series, and then we get into the cards that you saw. Like that was part of that darker image too. You
yeah,
just saw, yeah, where he was in the coming out of the dumpster. An image of Julie, which I think is from issue 1,
from the comic. Yeah,
talking on the
absolutely.
phone. Yeah, the girl and the guy and the.
Yeah, this is all early. I'm
Mhm.
guessing you said the art from the comics is like issue 1 to 3, one
It's
to
one
two.
through three. Yeah, it's
Okay.
100% 1 through
And
three
darker
plus.
image. Yeah.
Yeah, and the max one half. Yeah, they did that as a double card, and I told you where they don't actually line up. Like if you put them
Yeah,
right
yeah, yeah.
next to
Not
each other,
precisely. Yeah.
yeah, which I think is a real annoyance. Like if you're gonna do a split piece, like do it that like if you put them together, it actually lines up, but they don't. The cloak's slightly off, so there's a little bit missing.
It might be also, at the printing press, sometimes things get moved
Oh,
1/16 of an inch. You know what I
possibly.
mean?
Yeah,
There's
that
always,
is.
I've printed up comics before, and there's always, a 1/8 of an inch around the whole image that the printer always tells you. Now we could cut into that possibly, so make sure there's nothing important. Yeah, that's a great shot. I
Yeah.
thought it
Unfortunately,
became
that blue line that they put around on the sides for a style for some reason does go over the woman, so it hides her a little bit.
it's a little, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes the design doesn't work with every image, so
Yeah, the one where he's in the dumpster, getting eat by the is, which I think was actually when it came in the comic,
yeah,
it was upside down. Yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, Julie and the Max. That was issue 1, hanging in the window before he goes out into the streets. You'll remember that. It's from issue number 1, where it's just that headshot.
That's the Mr. Gone I want
Yeah,
without
that's the Mr.
weird
Gargano.
sunglasses. Yeah,
I think
exactly.
this was issue 3 when he pops up in the
He
outback.
finds himself in the outback all of a sudden. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And again, like the coloring will look basically like you remember it, but it's slightly different. I don't think there were any major changes.
I would say that they probably, because remember those first few image issues of the Max and Pit and stuff like that were a little darker and
Yeah.
murky. I
Yep.
feel like really all they did was, it's pretty easy. They're all using Photoshop at that time.
Yeah.
They just brightened up stuff and gave the colors a little bit more
Mm.
saturation, so they pop.
Yeah.
Ruben Rue just opened up the files of the art and just did those two simple things to each of the pieces of art.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
remember
I
this.
mean, I don't know for sure, but that's definitely what it feels like.
Yeah. Also again from issue number 1,
Yeah,
when he was tracking the is. I think that's in issue 3 where he's chasing down the is. No, Julie and the Tiger
yeah,
from
that's
issue 1.
very cool.
Good one. Julie in her fashion. The Max when he was sitting in the jail cell and there's all the graffiti on the wall.
Yeah,
Would have
yeah,
been cool.
the art, I can really see it here. It's definitely a lot brighter for
Yeah,
sure.
it would have been cool if they'd done the graffiti in a different color to make it pop for the card,
Yeah,
make it more readable for us. Would be fun.
deadlines.
Yeah, obviously the Max against the thug in there, and so you get the Max when he was laying and not attacked by Iz. Those two could have been back to back just for the funsies of it. Um, Obviously that was the final double page spread of the Max number 1.
Yeah,
Yeah, which fit onto a single card. That was from the Max 1/2,
yeah,
and I think that's where he's hitting one of the thugs in Darker Image 2. I think.
yeah. That's where he's talking about the mustard. That's where we first encounter his aversion to mustard in the
Uh-huh.
regular series. Yeah,
And then of course Julie when she was captured.
Slave Julie. Yeah,
Yeah.
Princess Leia.
Oh yeah.
Julie.
Oh, so that is fun. So this is from the Max 1/2, and
Yeah,
it wasn't Ruben Rude and it wasn't Steve Oliff who did the coloring for that one. So it's kind of nice but these two have been recolored.
Yeah, it was the guy who was, I think, the wizard colorist. I think who
Mhm.
did it.
Yeah, so good to see their take on those. The obviously iconic image from I think issue number 2 where she slays Mr. Gone, which is great to set up like, oh, this horrible villain, and then like the girl just takes him out right away. It's good, completely puts a change on the series. Would have been fun if they had encountered him in the outback after that, though, to be like, oh
Yeah,
my god, you still exist, and like, yeah, magically still in this world.
yeah,
And
and
that's
he's a failed wizard in the real world, but in the outback, he's
yeah,
probably more powerful, right?
yeah,
More threatening.
quite possibly, yeah.
Yeah,
Max, just a fun one. That was, of course, Julie when she was in the silhouette. Same issue 2. Issue 2 where Max got shot in the leg. And yeah, much brighter colors. It's fun. After he had bashed some Iz's, the Iz fighting. Oh yeah, and they did have the. You know what? They did have a body. That's I kind of forgot that they. I didn't remember. I thought they were like literally the ball head with legs coming right off of it, but it does show them here of having a
oh
very
yeah,
torso and then legs coming off of that.
but it's still, I feel like, it's not quite as clear as those cards that we saw earlier. Like I could,
Yeah,
he's not, it's a further away shot, so he's not drawing quite as much of those wrinkles on the shaft, if I can
yeah.
say it that way.
The opening
Yeah,
of issue 2, yeah,
yeah.
wrinkles on the shaft. Opening of issue 2 when the is in the fridge, which I wonder if that would have been a Ghostbusters influence from when there was the, or did they do
Slimer.
that in did they do that in Gremlins?
It sounds very likely. Yeah, I feel like they might have done it with both.
They did it with this one as well, where you gotta get both cards and put them together. But
Oh yeah,
issue 2 when they're battling, and that was a good one to do as a double.
I always love his choice of angles, weird angles. Like you know, let's focus on the tricep.
Yeah,
That's
right. The giant
so.
tricep. Yeah, and the
Sam
huge
Keith is
claw.
just he's the tricep guy. I feel like.
Which that claw must not be sharp. It must be only the point because Mr. Gone is pushing his hand against it and not showing any
Yeah, I've always felt it's more of a spike than a blade.
right. Yeah, would agree. Oh yeah, and that would have been the perfect one to so this is where they use the description for the Wraith. He didn't do
Yeah,
original art for it,
it's
so they
Dark Julie.
mm-hmm. And yeah, they did a lot from that fight in the issue 2 fight. You wanted some action scenes, and there really wasn't a lot of action in
That's the thing. Yeah, if
comics.
you're gonna be pulling from the comic, you're gonna have to pull mostly from the action shots.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing it with a Rob Liefeld comic, then you won't have any issues there.
Yeah. Oh, well, then there was a lot of issue 2, 18 cards from issue 2. So a lot of the images. Mr. Gone getting ready for his forced date. Um, when the guy had hit Max with mustard and the trash can lid, and then ran.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have pulled up the images, the original images, so we could see the color difference. And
So I'm realizing that early on, since they didn't use that material for Darker Image 2 and eventually was published in the series much later,
mhm.
this was all new stuff from the trading card set. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
as someone following the MAXX in those early issues, buying the trading card set was still giving you a few previews, at least, of what we're going to see at some point later. Very
yeah,
cool.
you got the right. You got the darker image 2 art, which yeah wouldn't pop up till much later, and then there were originals, some of which like those building art pieces that are really
Never
nice.
saw print in the comics. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's Max in the Outback. I think that's issue 3. When he's battling all the is.
I've always loved that shot where it's like, double fuck you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that is what it is. Yeah, and the die cat. Oh yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's issue 3 that popped up. It's
yeah.
that little opening. Obviously, the end of issue 3 when they're sitting up on the building, kind of
Yeah.
recapping,
See, these
going.
were those little moments like that though early on where he's cutting her toenails and stuff. Like that
Yeah,
was, kind of different and fun while still retaining again that aspect of the two worlds that I enjoyed. So yeah.
a really similar shot. There was 2 shots of Julie just kind of posing in clothes. Uh, oh yeah, Max. with his actual tribal headpiece,
Yeah.
feathers and fur. And then this shot, because there was the cover to issue #1, but then there was a different version that was done for Comic Scene and another version of it that was done for Comic Talk. So there's multiple versions of this very similar shot of the giant knees and his claws.
The big splotch in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, and the like sun or moon, whatever it is in the background.
I always thought it was like an explosion of blood.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully it's not the Max's hemorrhoids. I don't think, but
one would hope not. Yes.
Imagine wiping. Imagine having to wipe with that spike. It's not.
No, that's not. You have to get a very special, thick.
You gotta pick just the right angle.
Yeah, you're really gonna face a lot of challenges. Yeah, I mean that was the card series. This again, the story details are interesting. It's a lot of expanding upon something you kind of saw and adding to it, but in a way where it could be there. But if we never get around to it.
It's like some of it could still apply, and we mentioned this before. A lot of it eventually ends up kind of being a what if of the MAXX. Kind of again, almost like I know Sam Keith created the MAXX, but almost like William Messner Loeb's the MAXX or something, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we pretty much covered everything on the cards there.
Oh yeah.
Guess we'll call it a day then. Unless you got anything else you want to add, it's pretty exhaustive. So
yeah.
All right, we're gonna see you guys out. If you're still watching the videos, guys, we certainly do appreciate it. If you're subscribed, it's even better. If you're not subscribed, please do so. It only takes a quick second for you, and it really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and it helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books, just like we are. Speaking of comic books, Mark and I make our own. You can check out Mark's Guano Guy, Darkest Image, and K-Fate, Death of a Super on his, I'm getting the hang of it, on the Big Cartel website for Mark's stuff. For myself, it's KingComics.CA. You can check out my 13-issue epic, Big Baby, as well as my psychedelic sci-fi cosmic one-shot 32-page adventure called STARCRASHER. Once again, all that available at KingComics.CA. So, Mark, thanks again for joining me. Always fun to talk comics, or in this case, trading cards.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to leave it for today. So, everyone out there, thanks again for watching. Have yourselves an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents STARCRASHER one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!